All right, I've got 9:30. Good morning, or actually 8:30 Central Time. Good morning to everyone. Welcome to our winter GREC LMS Network meeting, our second of this year. Thank you all for joining us and logging in today. Welcome to my co-facilitator here, Sam Northern.
Thank you. Good to see everybody's name online. Thank you, Tara, for hosting, and Greg. Excited for today.
Yes, and I was going to give a shout out to Greg as well. Thank you, Dr. Dan Costello and Amanda Turner, who are always so helpful with us getting this set up and presented to you all today. And just we are so appreciative of even the opportunity to be able to meet with you guys during these sessions throughout the year, and hope that you will find it beneficial. So just a couple of housekeeping things. We do have the live agenda link posted, bit.ly/GREC LMS Winter 22. It is case sensitive. I think also Sam has been sharing it in the chat. Make sure you sign in. There is a link, a live link on the agenda for a Google form. That's used to not only record your attendance, but that's also how you will receive your attendance certificate at the conclusion of today's session. Today's session is also being recorded in case, I know right now it's hard in schools with access testing going on, and a lot of times our librarians are the ones being pulled to assist with that, or your space is being used for that. So feel free to go and do what you need to do, but you know that you will have it available to come back to. Also, we will post the link for the recording. Usually it's about 10 days, 2 weeks afterwards. We will add that to the top of the agenda for you to reference back. As our presenters share slides or information with us, we will add those to the agenda link. If you want to tweet during today's session, please use our hashtag GRECLMS. We are super excited about the lineup that we have scheduled for you all today. We have our usual hot topics of the KBA reminders, since we do have some adjusted timelines this year. We also have our KASL president, Deidre Bowling-Mead, going to join us, share some information about some upcoming KASL dates and news and additional professional learning opportunities for members. The Kentucky Historical Society is going to join us and share information. James Allen from KDE will be joining us. We've got Tim Kane and Kelly Reno going to talk a little bit about the McInvia Kentucky Shared Collection. Diana Wolf is going to talk about, do a part 1 on some Destiny tips. And then we're looking to continue that with her on some of those year-end type things that we always think about at our April meeting. And then last, but certainly not least, we're so excited to round out today's session with Bluegrass State Award-winning author, Court Stevens. We know she's near and dear to us here in Bowling Green as one of our Warren County public librarians, but she's also a well-known author, and we're so excited her book, We Were Kings, releases today. She's got a big event at in Bowling Green tonight, but we were able to scoop and get her before that even happens tonight. So the first event of her book release today. So that's the agenda we have set for you. We're super excited about our day of learning. And at this time, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to our first speaker, Renee Hale, who is co-chair of the Kentucky Bluegrass Awards.
There we go. I am now unmuted. I'm one of those librarians access testing. So I was like, I set a timer on my phone and it went off, and I said, I've got to go, people. It's kind of crazy in our library this morning. So anyways, KBA updates. It's been an exciting year for KBA. So here we go. Our mission statement: we strive so hard to provide age-appropriate book lists for our students to read and vote for their favorite. Our lists are well-rounded, they are fabulous, and I've had some sneak peeks at what might end up on the next set of master lists, and of course you'll be super happy about that too. So you can connect with KBA online, Facebook, and Twitter. I will be honest, I have been super overwhelmed this school year. So our Twitter and Facebook have not been super active, but hopefully next year we'll be back into the swing of things. Behind the scenes. So in January, our KBA coordinators work together. No one knows what's on each other's list. So it's even a secret from each coordinator. But they send the list to the chairs, and we double check and see which books might be on multiple lists, because we don't want a book to be on 2 lists. So that just happened in January. There we go. Oh, it just kept going. I'm so sorry. So our dates to remember, this is coming up really fast. March 11th is when the new master list will be released for next year. That's like a whole month early. So our chairs are just reading away right now. We are striving to get those out to you early so that you can use, if you have any money left for this year, you can use that money to purchase the books for next year. March voting will stay the same. So on March 14th, voting will open, and it will close on April 1st at 11:59 p.m. Every year somebody gets confused about that. In a couple of years, it's been me that's been confused. But we will allow voting until April 1st at 11:59 p.m. That's when voting closes. Votes will get tallied, and then we'll make an official announcement on April 11th for the winners of this year. So the big thing to know, master list for next year will actually be released before the voting window. So just kind of keep that in your brain. So something else behind the scenes, because we've moved the release date a whole month earlier, our readers have been reading like crazy. As of November of 2021, across all 5 committees, over 700 books have been read by the committees. So, like I said, it's a lot of reading. Oh, here we go. Book grants, sponsors pending, will be open in the month of May. We have had great sponsors in the past through Permabound, Mackin, Scholastic, KASL, Bound to Stay Bound Books. I was going to say Reading Rainbow, Rainbow Books. We are so lucky in Kentucky to have vendors that want to support KBA. So sponsors pending, we will have book grants available. And remember, you have to attend Summer Refresher in order to pick up your book grant. So if you're not planning to go to Summer Refresher, unfortunately, you won't be able to win a book grant. That's just one of the stipulations of the grant. There we go. We will be looking for new committee members. You can apply to join a committee. And in July, I will no longer be a co-chair of KBA. So if you're interested in knowing or learning more about being a KBA co-chair, reach out to me privately by email. I'm in Warren County. I'm on the listserv. You should be able to find me. And I can answer any questions you have. It is a 4-year commitment, and my 4 years will be up in July. So otherwise, you can join other committees. I do desperately need help with social media. Like I said, I've been terrible with it this year. And here is our contact information. Maria Atkins, who goes by Beth, is also a co-chair. She'll be with you for 2 of the years, and we're on a 4-year rotation. And you can also email us at the KBA coordinator Gmail. And that is what I've got. I am looking at comments now to see if anybody has any questions.
I didn't see any pop up in the chat, but everybody, feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask a question if you have one for Renee. Again, I always said that we're so thankful to have the librarians that serve on these KBA committees, because I think it makes our job so much easier to get this vetted list ready to go in our hands to start the school year off. Always by attending summer refresher, I was able to get ready-made lesson plans and activities and bulletin board posters with QR codes that I could utilize to kick off the school year and go ahead and create a buzz and excitement for a year full of reading, and then also involve the student voice with the voting that takes place. So we're very thankful for KASL sponsoring KBA for us, and to all the librarians that serve on our KBA committees, and especially to our vendors that make those book grants available to us. So I'm going to put him on the spot just for a moment. Dr. Dan Costello has joined us from GREC, and we've got a few minutes in our schedule. If I just open the floor up and welcome you and see if there's anything you'd like to say to our librarians in attendance today.
Hey, Tara, thank you for letting me slip in here for just a minute. Super excited. I made it to the Library Media Network. It seemed like I had trouble last fall. My schedule didn't always permit me to get on here, but I've made it to a couple and always enjoy it. You guys do such a great job. So I appreciate you all and Sam and the work that you all do to get this together and get a great group of speakers and presenters. And you got a good crowd here too. So that's awesome. I do want to say congratulations to the new doctor in the house, Dr. Sam Northern. I don't think I've had a chance to recognize him for that, but congratulations on completing your doctoral studies. And I mentioned to him, I congratulated him before, that he is not going to know what to do with himself and all of his free time that he has now. So I'm sure he will find something.
Well, thank you. I'm taking up knitting. I've got to do something. I'm just, I need a hobby, but thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. But thank you, Tara and Sam. Appreciate all you all do. And to everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out. I know in between all that you have to do, there's this belief out there that librarians have a pretty easy job. I'm just going to tell you, I was a principal, and I know that you don't. I know that you're busy. I know that people are tugging at you from all directions, and you've got a lot going on. And I'm sure some of you are probably getting pulled to substitute teach right now and to do so many different things. So thank you for carving out some time and being a part of this network, because I know that it's going to be beneficial to you all. If there's anything we can do at GREC, don't hesitate to let us know.
Well, we appreciate your support and your advocacy with our administrators that look to you guys to be the leaders for what professional development looks like, and the fact that you find the need to allow us to have this dedicated professional learning opportunities for our librarians is amazing. And just again, I know we talked about it at our fall meeting, but for those that were not able to join us, but to bring it back again, GREC did receive a certificate of commendation from the American Association of School Librarians at the conference this past summer, because of the work that has gone into this library network in the years past, and the fact that it has sustained and is a role model not only in our state but in other states as well now. And so we do appreciate your leadership and everything that you all do for us. All right. Anything else on that, Sam? I know you're a pivotal part and kind of accepted it on their behalf.
It's quite an honor. It's a national recognition. And so AASL was thrilled to know, our national association, that we have this type of network in our area. And, even within the state, it's quite amazing. We have a lot of people that want to join and pay to come to our networks that our district members get for free. So 3 times a year, getting together, getting updated. It's kind of what we're doing here, networking it up, getting updated with great presenters. It keeps me in the know and gives me some of that extra motivation to see you all and connect. So thank you, Greg. And again, April 21st is our next one. So I'm already looking forward to it, and we'll be planning for it as soon as today ends. So mark your calendars.
Absolutely. Okay, we are now ready for the next speaker. We've got Deidre Bowling-Mead, our current KASL president, joining us to give some KASL news and updates.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. I didn't make any slides because I'm going to make it short and simple. Sam attached the information that I wanted to talk to you about. First of all, we are actually going to have our first winter webinar, and it is Saturday, February 19th. So it is from 8:30 to 12:30 Eastern Time. We have Lexington author Jenny O'Neill with talking about her new book, The Free Thinker's Daughter, and she's going to talk about visiting schools virtually or in person, hopefully, at some point in time. So definitely don't want to miss out on hearing Jenny O'Neill. We will also have recorded sessions if you cannot go to the in-person ones. So you have an opportunity to walk away with 8 hours of PD if you do the live sessions and the recorded sessions. So we're really looking forward to this. Hopefully it's something that we can continue doing. If you need to register, you can go to KASL's Mighty Network, and this is free for KASL members. So all you have to do is just fill out the registration form. You have the option of selecting, I only want the recorded sessions. That way I'll know that you won't be able to make the live sessions. So either way, try to fill that out and join us on Saturday, February 19th. 2 other dates I want to mention. We have the Spring Summit, Tuesday, March 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern. That will be more KBA authors speaking to us, and Renee is going to have be giving us a list of those soon. So watch out for that information. And I know that we've already mentioned about Summer Refresher, so you can get the KBA book grants, but the dates on that, we're going back to the 2-day event, July 11th and 12th. It's in Ashland, Kentucky, and we will release a tentative schedule of what we plan on doing following the winter webinar, and also the call for proposals will go out. So we'd love for you to present a session, and we will also have the opportunity, if you want to just do a recorded session, for those who decide to just attend virtually. We hope to open registration up for that in March, so be on the lookout for all that. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I know my email's on the agenda. I'd love to hear from you, and anything that you would want KASL to work on the rest of this year. So I'm finished unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Deidre. So lots of good opportunities coming up and exciting times for additional professional learning offered by KASL. I do think we have on the agenda included KASL's webpage. If you need information on joining KLA KASL, if you need to register for the Mighty Network, or if you need information on the winter webinar, as well as Deidre's email address should you have additional questions. So we're just a little ahead of schedule. So a couple of additional announcements that had come in that we were going to save for the end, but we can go ahead and bring it up to now, and we will add these to our agenda announcements at the bottom. But we were contacted by Jill Brown of the Kentucky Geographic Alliance, Department of Earth, Environmental, and Atmospheric Sciences at Western Kentucky University. And she's wanted to share a couple of opportunities for teachers and students. And there's a newsletter that we will attach to the agenda about some teacher professional development that will include some stipend money, as well as a completion with money prizes for students. They also have a website that we will be sharing. And then also some of our next speakers, we've got Jody Lewis, who's Director of Learning for the Kentucky Historical Society, and Claire Courtney that will be joining us as well. And I'm sure they may speak to this as they are talking, but They wanted to reach out and see if there was any way that the Kentucky Historical Society could help any constituents that might need help recovering from some of the regional devastations that we experienced within our Gregg region. Both I know Warren County and Muhlenberg County and Hopkins County and several of some of our schools got hit. Taylor County during some of those tornadoes and storms that we just had recently. So they wanted to let you all know that they can communicate how to get in touch with a network of over 300 historical organizations and for some help with that. So if they're ready, we'll go ahead and jump right on in, and I'm going to turn it over to Claire and let her join us with the Kentucky Historical Society.
Thank you, Tara. I'm really happy to be here with you today. You don't get Jody, you get me. For those of you I don't know, my name is Claire Gwaltney, and I am the Teacher Programs Manager here at the Kentucky Historical Society. And I will definitely put in the chat box when I'm finished some information about where you can go for help if you are a library in Western Kentucky and you had some damage from those tornadoes and you need some extra support to get things back up and running. So that was a great reminder, and I will pull that information and get that into the chat box today. But the main thing I wanted to talk to you about today was just to give you an overview of some of the resources that we have available for our school library and media specialists in Kentucky. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if I'm able, if I can, hold on. Let's see, okay. Let's see.
And while Claire's doing that, this is Sam. You know, we're so glad to have you here, and I know you got some big news, and we're quite fortunate to have you on this particular day. If you don't mind sharing why.
Well, tomorrow is actually my last day at KHS, so I see a lot of familiar names on the list today. So you only have a little bit of time left to reach out to me for help, but Jody Lewis is our Director of Education, and her contact information is in your agenda. And so she would be more than happy to help you with anything that you need. I am always bragging about how awesome our Kentucky school library and media specialists are. You guys are amazing. This is where it's at. I'm really bummed that I'm going to miss the summer refresher this year, because that's one of my favorite events of the school year. But I'm happy to be here with you today, because even though I'm leaving, there are still a ton of really great resources that the Kentucky Historical Society has to offer for you and your students and fellow teachers. So that's what I'm kind of going to go over today. And so you should be seeing my screen right now, which is the homepage of our website. And you can reach that at history.ky.gov. And then if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see these three icons, and the icon that we've created just for you is the For Educators. So you click on that, and this is kind of your homepage. This is what we've created just for you to find all this wonderful information that can help you and your students in one location. So there's a few different things I'm going to talk about today, and the first is field trips. So for those of you who have never been here before, we are located in downtown Frankfort, and we actually have 3 buildings. So we have our main history center, which features our permanent exhibits telling the story of Kentucky's history from the earliest period up to today. We also have the old state capitol, which was the seat of government from about 1833 till just after 1900, when they built the new building across the river. And then we have the Kentucky Military History Museum, and that's actually my favorite site because it has a really beautiful exhibit telling the stories of Kentucky service members from the 1800s to today. When you come visit us in person, one ticket price gets you into all 3 sites, so you can enjoy everything that KHS and downtown Frankfort has to offer. One thing that I would like to mention is all of our trips, all of our field trips meet the Kentucky Academic Standards for Social Studies. So you can see those lined out here. And I know that this is often very helpful for teachers who need to share this with a principal or other school administrators, kind of justifying the benefit of a visit like this with their students. In addition to enjoying all of our self-guided features, we can also do hands-on learning labs. So if you kind of wanted to enhance your field trip experience with a museum educator on site, we have 3 different programs that we can do for you. Quills and Bills is probably our most popular because that ties in very well with our old state capitol building. And in this activity, students actually write a bill using an old-fashioned quill and ink. So they're learning all about that civic engagement process. We also have another one called Vote for Me, where they learn what it means to be an active citizen, and we tie it into our Hall of Governors. And then finally, we have an artifact analysis program where students actually get to get their hands on historic artifacts to explore those and figure out what they might have been used for in the past. So all the information about our field trips is here. We partner with other organizations here in Frankfurt, such as the Salado Wildlife Education Center. So if you were looking to combine a social studies field trip with a science experience, one phone call, one ticket price, we can set that all up for you. And if you were looking to have a more government-centric day, we also partner with the new state capitol building. And again, you can call us and we can set up a tour here and tours at the new state capitol building to give you an entire day here in Frankfurt. So a very easy process. The other thing I would really like to remind you about or tell you about is that we have scholarship money. And because on-site field trips have been so few and far between the past couple of years due to COVID, we have tons of scholarship money. So now is the time to plan an on-site or an online visit with KHS, because we can really help cover some of those expenses and make this a more cost-effective option for you and your students. Now, if you're not up to doing an on-site field trip, we can still connect with you virtually, and we would love to do that. So we have 2 different online field trip options. The first is a virtual field trip, and these are designed for students kindergarten through 8th grade. And we have 4 themes that we can do. One takes place at the old state capitol and is all about civics and action. Then we have one on innovation and industry, which focuses on the Southern Exhibition. This is very centered on economics and help meet some of those economic standards that are oftentimes difficult for teachers to meet. Exploring the Frontier looks at early Kentucky and the settlers who came here and the people that they met when they arrived. This is a really popular field trip for our elementary students as they're learning about early Kentucky and migration and settlement. And then finally, we have a tour on the Hall of Governors, where you're learning about the characteristics and challenges of Kentucky's leaders over the years. Each one of these virtual field trips is live and takes place in our galleries with a museum educator. Each one also comes with a post-tour activity that you can execute and facilitate on your own, just using easy supplies that you already have on hand. Now, unlike our on-site field trips where you can stay all day long, our virtual field trips are 60 minutes approximately. They cost $75 per 100 students, but we still offer the scholarship money for that. So again, another really easy way to bring something into your classroom. And we can do these on any virtual platform of your choice. So if you're using Zoom, Google Hangouts, Teams, Classroom, whatever you're using at your school, we will connect with you so that it's safe and secure and your students are familiar with the virtual platform that you're using. And again, all of these are connected to the Kentucky Academic Standards for Social Studies, which you can pull up right here for each tour and each grade level. So a great way to make sure you're hitting these new social studies standards. Now, these thematic virtual field trips are for our K-8 students, but if you're working with students in grades 8 through 12, we have another virtual program called Host a Historian. And this is something that we're really excited about because it's a very different program from anything we've done before. It's targeting high school students, which we've often struggled to connect with in the past. But this has been doing really, really well. We've been getting a lot of students and teachers signed up for it. And in this program, we have a historian from our staff connect with your students virtually. They give a short presentation about a particular topic, and then the rest of the time is Q&A for them to have a discussion with the students about that topic. And students get to ask their questions and really pick the brain of a real life historian. So we have 4 themes that we offer in Host a Historian. We have Manifest Destiny, Civil War Era, Civil Rights and Racial Justice, and finally coal and Appalachia. The thing that I love about these 4 programs is that they look at these big national topics, but they're looking at them through a Kentucky lens. So, you know, for instance, you often think of Manifest Destiny as the Oregon Trail and folks going beyond the Mississippi and all the things that they discover there. But in fact, you know, a long time ago, Kentucky was the West. And so how does Kentucky fit into this story of westward expansion? And that's something that our historians can really tease out and bring to life for your students. The logistics are very similar with Host a Historian as they are for our virtual field trips. You know, this is for grades 8 through 12. The program lasts about 45 minutes. This is only a $50 fee for 100 students, so even a little bit more cost effective. But again, scholarships are available, so we can help make that happen more easily for you. And again, we'll use whatever virtual platform you are already using with your students and that your school has already set up for you. And once again, you can see here that these are all aligned to the Kentucky Academic Standards for Social Studies. So those have been lined out for grades 8 through 12. So those are our on-site and online field trip options, but we still have other things that you can do with us, other ways that we can engage with you and your students. So if you are looking for a more long-term project and something that you can collaborate with your fellow teachers, you might investigate National History Day in Kentucky. Now, this is actually a worldwide program that we facilitate on behalf of the state of Kentucky here at KHS. And this is an opportunity for students to pick a historical topic of their choice and take a deep dive into it. They conduct research using primary and secondary sources. They come to some conclusions about why this event or this person might have been important. And then they have to communicate their findings in a final project that they then present to a panel of judges at the regional, state, and even national level. So it's a very project-based learning. It's an excellent example of inquiry education because they're collecting that evidence, they're analyzing it, they're communicating their conclusions. And of course, because the student gets to choose their topic and how they compile the results, it often results in a project that they're really passionate about and have tried really hard on. I love it when social studies teachers, language arts teachers, and library teachers collaborate and do NHD together, because really there's so much social studies, there's so much reading and writing, and there's so much research that when you guys all work together to support your students, you create these NHD super students that are completely unbeatable. So definitely take a look at this program and think about implementing it in your school. We are gearing up for our regional contest in March, which will be held virtually, and we are looking for judges who will volunteer their time to help review those student projects. So it's a great opportunity for you to kind of learn more about this program and what it's about. And we can also give you some PD credit hours for that as well. And so if you come onto this page about National History Day and then scroll down to the judges page, you can click there, you can sign up. And I know our NHD coordinator would love to have you with us this spring. Another great thing we offer for schools are our traveling trunks. And so this is something that we ship right to your door. We have 3 traveling trunks based on 3 different topics. So we have the Civil War, World War II, and women's suffrage. All of them look at these large topics through a Kentucky lens. And each trunk is filled with anywhere from like 5 to 8 days worth of lesson plans, activities, worksheets, handouts, things that you can do with your students. You also get a collection of primary sources, many of which are not available anywhere else, not even on our online digital platforms. And then you get a bunch of hands-on real and reproduction artifacts that students can handle, try on, examine, explore. So things that are really, really engaging. Something that I love about our trunks are that you know, if you knew nothing about the Civil War in Kentucky, you could take this trunk and you could effectively teach it to your students. Or if you already have an amazing lesson and unit on the Civil War in Kentucky, you could just kind of pick and choose the elements that you want to use. Either way, the trunk is going to be really effective and you're going to get a lot of use out of it. I know it's been very successful in school libraries when you set up stations around your library, doing different activities or looking at different objects, and students have kind of rotated through. I know that's been a very popular approach with our World War II trunk around Veterans Day, and you're looking to kind of meet some of those Veterans Day requirements that the Kentucky Board of Education asks you to meet. Again, you can see the supporting information for these trunks online, which includes the fact that all of them are connected to those Kentucky academic standards for social studies. And then you can also see an item list, so you know exactly what is in each of those trunks and you know what you're getting. Our trunks cost $100 to borrow, as well as return shipping, or you need to drop it back off to us here at KHS in Frankfurt. You have a borrowing period of about 3 weeks because we really want you to be able to use this with your students and dive into it. But we would love to have you explore this resource and check it out. And then up here, we have our KAS connections and other educator resources. Now, this is a great place for librarians to kind of dive into because this is where our primary sources are featured in our For Educators page. So I keep mentioning the social studies standards, and I know that you guys just got new standards too, so congratulations. I hope that those are being implemented easily and more effectively maybe than the social studies ones, which launched and then immediately we went into virtual learning with COVID. But it's really important to us that everything we offer connects to these social studies standards. And so what we've done is we've created resource guides for each grade level that connect digitized and transcribed primary sources from our collection with each of the Kentucky-centric standards. So for instance, if you look at kindergarten, oops, let's scroll to the top. So here's the kindergarten social studies resource guide. Here's that first Kentucky-centric standard based on civics. And here are some primary sources that can help you teach that standard. So you'll get the title of the item, a tiny bit of context, a couple questions to start a discussion going in your classroom, and then a link on where you can find that resource online. So these include photographs, other images, it includes artifacts, like here's a piece of clothing, and it also includes documents. Any documents that are included are also transcribed to make it a little bit easier for your students to access them. And so here you can see our economic standards, geography, and finally history. If we look at one of the older grade levels, here are the high school world history connections with that Kentucky-centric standard, maps, paintings, textiles, newspapers. There's tons of great stuff in here, and we've gathered this in an easy to access place. We also have a Pinterest page that allows you to look at resources thematically. So if you know that you are doing a lesson on the Cold War in Kentucky, you could click here and all of a sudden you have a collection of vetted primary and secondary sources that you can print off, and your students can break up to do group work. They can do a gallery walk around the library. There's so many different things you could do. You could just choose one of these and choose to focus on it. There's great ones for Derby Day coming up in a few weeks, or if you were doing something related to Veterans Day. Again, here we have one on Veterans Day, or elections, if you are doing something related to the election time. So lots of ready to use resources that have been vetted by our staff here and which can easily be applied into a classroom. And then if you want to take a deep dive into our collections, which you may because you're librarians, we have two different digital databases. So one is for our documents and images. And here you could type in, let's see, Constitution. It helps if I spell it right. Hold on. Constitution. So for example, you can just type in a keyword like Constitution, and here are all the items associated to that, including our original 1792 Constitution. Here you can look at that page by page. You can make it bigger, which is really helpful for things like maps. And if you have a smart board in your classroom, it's so easy to zoom in and take a close look. You can download these images or print them off to use in your virtual or your real classroom. We just ask that you give KHS credit for them. And then you get a transcript. So obviously a lot of students would struggle to read the Constitution in its original form, but here you have that transcript to make it a little bit more accessible for you. So you can really take a deep dive into these digital collections, and it's this database where you're going to find all of our flat things. So the letters, the maps, diaries, photographs, postcards, things like that. Now, if you're looking for 3D primary sources, you're going to look at our artifacts catalog, our objects catalog, I should say. And so for instance, let's say you're doing a lesson about elections, or you're holding student elections, and you want to give students an idea of how the electoral process was carried out in Kentucky long ago. You might look up something like a ballot box. And you can click on this object. You can make these pictures bigger. Again, you can download them. You can look at them from different angles, print them off. Just remember, we ask that you identify that these are from KHS. And you get all this information about these items as well. So this ballot box was circa 1873. It's made of wood, leather, and iron. And you'll get a description and some notes. So this is pretty cool. We actually know who used this ballot box and where, and some information about his time as an elected official. So objects and documents like these can really help bring to life history for students. And these would be great databases for you to give your students access to. Let them find a primary source related to a topic and tell you about it, because in these databases, they're definitely going to find a good one. There's tons of great stuff. So here are the resource guides that are connected to the standards up at the top. And then down here are the primary sources with the artifacts catalog, and then the one for the 2D documents and images, as well as the Pinterest page where things are organized thematically. Other thing you might be interested in is Explore KY History. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen the historical markers that are by the side of the road or places of interest. They are all over Kentucky, as you can see by this map. But this website and app is great because it has entries about these markers. So I can type in a county or a city like Bowling Green and scroll down, and here are entries about various historical markers in that area, or that mention Bowling Green in this instance. So for example, we can click on this and learn about marker number 67 in Warren County. Here's a few little paragraphs about this topic. There's some primary sources at the bottom that your students can use to explore more. And sometimes you'll even get not only just how to cite this particular page, but some additional resources. So this is a great way to introduce a topic to your class, to your students, or to get them to connect their local history with the bigger picture, with what was happening statewide or nationwide or worldwide. So this Explore KY History website is a really, really fun one that can help bring some of that local history to life for your students. So definitely check that out. And then the last thing I'll show you is just professional learning. You've already heard about all the wonderful professional learning that KASL has coming up. You guys are really doing a great job with that. And we have stuff throughout the school year as well. So our History Education Conference is the biggest event of our year. We're hoping to have that on site this July, and it's actually the week of KASL. So that will be Thursday, July 14th. We would love for you to just have a big professional learning week where you come out and enjoy KHEC with us. KASL members do get a discount, so please keep that in mind. But in addition to it being on site this year, we are also going to have a virtual component because we found that virtual is a really wonderful option and one that people want. So we would like to keep that as part of that experience this year. And then we also offer teacher workshops throughout the school year. And this is where you can find that information. So our next opportunity is on March 15th. We have a wonderful partner coming in from the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center to talk about the final solution. This is a 2-hour virtual workshop and it will be free. So please put that on your calendars or register right here is where you go. And then we'll be partnering with Teaching American History in April. And that workshop will be on the founding and the Electoral College. We're maybe going to do this live. We're not totally sure yet, so kind of stand by for more information on that. But these are both free offerings. So we would love to have you Zoom in and join us. All right, and so again, I'm just going to remind you, if you go to our website at history.ky.gov and then just scroll down, you're going to click on that For Educators page. And this is where you're going to find all this wonderful information, this hub where you can learn about everything from on-site and online field trips to the things that we mail out to you, to these long-term collaborations like National History Day, and then all of the online resources that we offer you. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open up the chat box. It looks like Sam has been adding some great links for you in there. But let me just open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions, I would love to help answer them. and find out what we can do to help you guys.
I know there's a ton of resources to have time to dig in and see what's there, but more than anything, please, librarians, share this with your teachers, especially the teachers of social studies. As was mentioned, we got our new state social studies standards. And I know one of the biggest things that I've heard from numerous teachers is, I need resources to teach these new standards. And so you all have gone through and curated so many beneficial things that could be utilized with our students. Sam, I know you've done a lot of work with the social studies standards and inquiry. Anything you want to talk about or resources that I know you've utilized that you might could share some ideas?
Yeah, sure. Just now, I was actually just submitting an application for a virtual field trip, and it's so easy to get to, and the application is straightforward. So if you're looking to do that, if you want a virtual field trip, throw it out there that, you're looking for some assistance with funding, or if you don't need the funding, it's relatively inexpensive for the virtual one. And, you could host up to 100 students per session, it says. And so I haven't done a virtual one yet. In the past, we've done the History Smarts program, which was in person with an instructor, a teacher from the Historical Society. And our students have loved it because they got to really engage with primary sources. They did map making, and they had someone different, an expert per se, who came to the building and gave students a whole new perspective. We've also tried the traveling trunk, which my school is elementary, and we're still able to discuss and talk about some of the items in the trunk. But I think for intermediate and middle school, the traveling trunks would be really awesome. And you don't have to do much because it's delivered to you, and it's a great display that's pretty much already, curated for you. So thank you, Claire, for all of your work. I'm just seeing the changes in the webpage and the resources since just my short time of working with you in social studies. There's been great gains made. And so thank you for all you've done. And we're excited to hear about your next venture. We know you're going to do wonderful. And just keep us in mind, let us know, and come back when you can.
Well, thank you so much. And I put the contact information for Jody Lewis, our Director of Learning, in the chat box. It's also in the agenda. I cannot stress enough how much we enjoy working with you guys here at KHS. So please don't be strangers. Reach out with whatever you need. I also added some information about that disaster relief fund for libraries if you have been affected by tornadoes or any other weather that's headed our way. So please keep that in mind. Whatever you need, we're here to support you and connect you with resources that will help you and your students.
Excellent. Thank you again, and best wishes to you and your next endeavors.
Thank you.
All right. So, and I know I love the ideas in the chat of going ahead and sharing this out with teachers. Even if you can get 5 or 10 minutes on a staff meeting agenda, or if your principal has a weekly newsletter where you could get a blurb to just include a link. Check this out. Did you know? And kind of pique some interest for some of those to dig in deeper with some of those sources that have already been cultivated and aligned to the social studies standards. So, all right, we are just a little ahead of schedule, but I think we're going to keep on going because I know a lot of times our friends from KET also have a wealth and plethora of resources to share with us, and we never get enough time to really dive in and see what all's there. So we're going to keep going and welcome Amy Grant and Kathy Davis to our GREC Winter Library Network meeting, and turn it over to you ladies for what's new with KET.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I have the pleasure and privilege to go first. And Kathy will follow up with some other good stuff, but I was so excited about what's happening that I said, Kathy, please let me go first. Let me just say too that y'all know this is our group, right? We love this group so much. We love the partnerships that we formed along the way. I know I probably speak for Kathy, but definitely for myself. I feel like we have more of a friendship than in many cases than a working relationship too. But I digress. Let me dive in first, y'all. I am so thrilled and so excited about this year's Young Writers Contest. And I am going to quickly share my screen and share our slides. Let me know if you can't see them or if anything crazy happens. So the Young Writers Contest has been a journey, right? It's one of those things that has been around in some form or fashion for over like 30 years. It started as a Reading Rainbow contest, turned into a PBS Kids Young Writers Contest. And then, you know, here at KET, we like to do our own thing. So we sort of molded it and made it fit to what we knew that teachers were asking for and parents were asking for in our state and our local area. And so that being said, we continue to change and update the contest. And that has remained the same for this year too. So I think we've shared before this year's contest, you know, it runs every spring. Typically in the past couple of years has been a 3-category contest. This year we have added that 4th category. We've added graphic novels to our lineup of categories. And we've also listened to feedback saying, you know, in past years, we sort of had those grade levels more constricted. So, you know, if you were a middle schooler, you could only enter a short story or a poem, but you couldn't do illustrated story. Or if you were, you know, a kindergartner, you could only do illustrated. So we've sort of thrown that out the window and we said, you know what, it doesn't matter what grade level you're in, we want to see what you can do. So we've opened up all of the categories. We've even dropped the illustrated story category down to preschool. So if you've got really early learners in your buildings, we would love to have their stories in the contest as well. Another big change besides, you know, no big changes. New category, open grade levels, new website. We've also changed our prizes to a strictly money prize. We've heard lots of feedback, you know, and we all know kids, like that's a big driver for kids, is just a dollar amount driver. And so for all of those winners, we have transferred to $100 for first place, $50 for second place, and $25 for third place for each of those categories at all kinds of grade levels. So we've really opened up the contest a lot. And you know, it's a year of big changes. So one other big change that we are starting, which I hope it's successful and we can do this every time, but we are starting a series of virtual author visits that are all free. They are going to be held via Zoom. So you and your students can log in, talk to real authors in a quick 30 minutes during the school day. This year, just because graphic novel is the new category, our 6 authors are all graphic novelists or graphic illustrators or some form or aspect, they're a comic artist, have to do with graphic novels. And those 6 authors, we have a flyer that I will, I'll send out the link in the chat here to this flyer. You may have seen it, we've posted it to the listserv. Those 6 authors sort of run the gamut. We've got East Coast, West Coast, Kentucky-based authors who've all agreed to be a part of this journey with us. They are leveled. So we have some authors who their skills more aligned to those early learners. We've got some authors that their skills align to the high school crowd. So no matter what grade level you have in your building, you or your classroom teachers can sign your kids up to be a part of this. This could even be, you know, it's so open. If you want to sign your whole school up and everybody, you know, join the Zoom from their classrooms, or however you want to make this work, we can make this work. We've got first up, Sarah Giles, who will be with us next week, next Wednesday, to talk to our earlier learners, our pre-K through 3rd crowd. And y'all know we put grade levels on stuff, but it's never a live or die by. So if you are 4th grade and you want to tune into Sarah, absolutely do so. We've got Benito down there listed for 9th through 12th, but you know, if you've got 8th graders or even 7th graders who are interested in him and his bio, by all means, please sign up. Don't live or die by those grade levels. You know, we can always move things up or down. But we're really excited about that. They're going to be typically every Wednesday through February through March. We'll skip that KISTI week because I know a lot of us attend KISTI. But we're really excited for these authors to come and share with us. We have purchased their books, their works that we'll be giving away during those sessions. We have either purchased a full class set or a 8-book small group set for each of those authors that we'll be giving away as a group. So you may win an entire class set of David Wayne's book that is a, oh gosh, I forget the title, something about making your own graphic novel, and kids get, it's one of those, you write in it and you tear the pages and you really create with that book. So you'll have the opportunity to both attend his session, but also maybe win some of those author books as well. All right, the other big, and I promise Kathy, I'll stop talking in a minute. I'm just really excited about the contest this year. But I have one more big, you know, we just reinvent things all the time. And we, you know, make more work for ourselves all the time. I think you guys probably feel that as well. But we decided, okay, new category, we need some resources to share, right? So we are creating creative writing toolkits for each, hopefully, of the 4 categories in the contest. And of course, we're starting with graphic novel because it's the new big thing this year. It is going to be, it is in its final edits right now. It is about 24 pages right now, full of activity ideas. It has, actually, I can give you a sneak peek. Don't tell anybody. Hang on, let me pull it over. Some of our authors that we're working with are sharing some of their activities. Okay, here's sort of a sneak peek behind the scenes. It's still in some final edits, so we're still doing some final, you know, grammatical and this picture needs to shift or whatever edits, but it's full of activities from the authors themselves that we're working with. It is activities that align to a couple of PBS Learning Media resources. There are pages of writing prompts, all kinds of good stuff will be in this toolkit. And we're going to release it next, wait, no, that's this week, this Thursday at our Young Writers Contest webinar, which is going to kick off the virtual learning series of webinars that Kathy will tell you more about. But know that the graphic novel creative writing toolkit is coming and will be online by the end of the week. And I was going to say something else so awesome about that, but now I don't remember what it was. Once you get to take a look at those toolkits, we'd love to know your feedback. You know, this is sort of the first time we've done this, and we do hope to do it also for the illustrated category, the short story category, and the poetry category. And of course, y'all know Lynn Schaefer, who's on our staff, is a published poet herself. So I would say we'll start with poetry next. But we do want your feedback. Are they helpful? Are they great? Are they not great? What could we improve? So once you look at those, just sort of let us know your thoughts so we can make the next one even better or even edit the current one we have. Okay. I think I've told you everything that's going on with the Young Writers Contest. So, you know, just a few changes. So on that website, ket.org/writers contest, the website is totally refreshed. And this is where you can go, your students can go to enter their works. We have changed the entry form so that if you're a teacher who is entering several students in a class, it's easier to do that. You don't have to put, you know, the name of your school and your information and the school address in for each student. You'll enter each student and then just have to put your information in once. So hopefully that will save you a few precious minutes if you're one of those who upload several students' works. You have the links to those Zoom sessions with our authors. Again, they're almost every Wednesday through February and March by grade level. We'd love to see you there, giving away author texts. And then information about each of the 4 categories, the rules, and the scoring rubrics that our judges will use to score those pieces once they're there. All right, so new website, new category, open grade levels, author visits, graphic novel toolkit coming Thursday at our virtual learning session. I think that's it. I'm going to turn it over to Kathy to share some additional KET resources, new things coming out, going on. I'll be checking the chat. If you have any questions, again, you're always welcome to unmute and interrupt or throw it in the chat and we'll be happy to answer. But I'm really excited about Young Writers Contest. I hope your kids are excited about the new category and we can't wait to see all their writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And I, like Amy, am really excited about the Young Writers Contest this year. I don't know if she mentioned this or not, but one thing I love, the only thing I can take credit for in the new toolkit that's coming out is the fact that I've proofread it several times. And I really enjoy that. I'm an English major, so I just, that's fun to me. That's not work. But anyway, when I used to teach writing a lot, when I was library media specialist, anytime you assign a writing project or ask the kids to write, the first thing they say is, I don't know what to write about. I don't have anything to write about. And so the toolkit has got tons of great ideas on things the kids can write about and story starters and just some really neat activities for them to do. So yeah, check it out. And the author visits, of course, that's fabulous. Anytime the kids can talk to authors and ask them questions and collaborate with them, and you're helping meeting the new technology standards by that collaboration there. So yeah, we're really excited about the Writers Contest this year. And as Amy said, we're always looking for feedback. And believe me, we love our librarians. You guys give the best feedback. We go by a lot of things you guys suggest to us. I'm going to mention that in a few more things that I am going to show today. Amy, do you care to reshare your screen? Go to the slides. Okay, thank you. I like it better when my picture's just a little box instead of the whole screen. But anyway, so as most of you guys know, I'm going to move on from the Young Writers Toolkit, but as most of you guys know, social studies shorts, most of you guys are using that and have promoted that, and we really appreciate that. We are really excited. We are going to release 3 new episodes this spring, and they are Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Geographical Regions, and Civic Beauties. And we're excited about all 3, but we're really excited about the Kentucky Derby one. And as I said, we look to you guys for suggestions. And I can tell you how many times someone has said, can KET do something on the Kentucky Derby? So when we started this social studies shorts thing, that was one thing that we thought of. It's kind of a complicated one because of all the copyright and all the hoops you have to jump through to do it. But we are going to really jazz up the resource materials on this one. We're hoping to work with the Kentucky Derby Museum in Louisville to really make the resource materials on this one good. And something that you guys can really use. So a check for those. The Kentucky Derby one, we hope to get it out by mid-March so that you guys have plenty of time to use it for your Derby activities and stuff. So, and the other 2 will be coming out this spring as well. So look for those and we'll get information out to you guys when those are out. As Amy was mentioning on the virtual learning series, this Thursday is when the graphic novel, the creative writing toolkit is coming out. So we're really excited about that. Amy and Lynn, who she said has helped with this, are going to present that one. And I just listed, these are all going to be, and we put the Central Standard Times on here for you guys because Amy always fusses because she says, you guys that live in the Eastern Time Zone, you don't ever consider the Central Time Zone. So, but we did on this because the Eastern Time Zone, we actually preferred to start these about 4:30 or 5 Eastern Time. And Amy said, no, the teachers are still in school. We've got to consider the Central teachers. So they're not going to start until 5 o'clock Central Time and 6 o'clock Eastern Time. And there'll be an hour and a half Of course, approved for professional development if your district approves them for professional development. And as you guys can see, there's lots on here, lots for the younger grades. We partnered with the early childhood team for these, so they're doing a lot of them, and then our K-12 are doing a lot of them. One I think would be a great interest to you guys, or two, we're doing two on media literacy skills. And one of the early childhood folks, and Amy, you may be helping her with that one, but she does a presentation on media literacy skills in the young kids, and I've seen it and it's really good. And of course, Larry Moore and I it's a passion of mine, the one for the older grades, and we're doing one on it in April as well. So that one on the March 3rd and April 14th, I think would be of great interest to you guys. So, but check all those, and of course, the one coming up this week will definitely be of great interest to you guys as library media specialists. So check those out. And also with those, this is kind of a part of those, but different as well. We're going to do 2 PBS Kids Ed Camps this year, and you guys are familiar with Ed Camps, like where you guys, the participants, pretty much create the agenda. We set the topic, and then we listen to you guys, and you guys discuss and set the topics pretty much. So we're excited about those. The first one is going to be virtual. It is February 19th from 8 to 11 Central Time. And these are not just, even though they say PBS Kids Ed Camp, these are we're going to make these so they fit for all grades. So we're going to try to target it for all grades. The second one, and the literacy focus is really great for you guys, but the second one I'm really excited about, because right now, fingers crossed, we are going to do that one in person at the Nicely Center there in Bowling Green. And it's going to be on social emotional learning, and I know that hits all of us right now, that kids need, you guys need as much help on social emotional learning as possible. So we're looking forward to that one. We're hoping to get some guest speakers that are kind of experts in that area to open it up, and then break off in our small groups and discuss, and you guys create the agenda and talk about what you guys want to talk about. But that one is going to be probably around 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time there in Bowling Green. So we're really excited about that one. And Amy and I are just excited to get to go somewhere, to be honest with you. We were so used to being out and about. This sitting in a desk all day long every day is just about to kill all of us. But anyway, those look for those. Those are coming up. The one there in February really soon. And then if you'll go to the next one, Amy. And then at Kisty, we're excited. We're going to get to attend that in person as well. So we're going to get out of the house a few times. But anyway, you guys know all the information on that. But we just wanted to point out that KET is going to be very actively involved in it this year. The booth will be open. The KT booth will be open on booth hours, whatever those are, on Wednesday and Thursday. And then we're going to do 3 sessions at Kisty this year. One on social emotional learning and creative projects. We hear a lot that, and I hear it from my own grandchildren a lot as well, is that kids are tired of computers right now. They want to do something that's not on a computer. So we're going to try to have some creative projects that you can do with the kids that don't involve them sitting at a computer. And of course, we'll have a lot that do, because, you know, nearly everything KET has, you know, you have to get on a computer to do. But anyway, so we're excited about that one. And then the media literacy for the early childhood, Amy and Polly are early childhood person that has taken a real interest in the media literacy for the young grades are going to do that one. So that one's going to be really good. And then there's going to be a Friday poster session, Set Creativity in Motion. And you and Larry are doing that one, right, Amy? Okay, and Amy and Larry are doing that one. So check that one out. But definitely, we miss you guys. Come by the booth and see us. And we will be so happy with you guys. And if we can talk Brian into it, we'll be having lots of good giveaways at Kisty, since we've not gotten to do things like that for nearly 2 years now. So that's all I've got to say. we can't wait to see you guys either. I'm looking at the chat and we can't wait to see you guys either. And Diana Wolf, I'm so happy that your kids are already submitting stories to young writers. Yay. And if you guys, like Amy said, we love you guys. We love networking with you guys. Most of you guys I consider friends at this point, not just colleagues. So if we can help in any way, please let us know. And we will just reach out to us and we'll help in any way that we can. And if there's any questions, just throw them in the chat and Amy or I will try to answer those.
Always exciting news coming from KET with all the resources, but opportunities that you offer for not only the learners, but teachers and librarians for professional learning and just to do the work. We are ahead of schedule and I had not built in a break today because we had so many great things. So what we're going to do before we jump right into James, I know he's got quite a bit. We're going to pause, put about 5 minutes if you need to run to the restroom, if you need to check on some things in your library or in your space, and we will come back at 10 till. So take about a 4 to 5 minute break and we'll come back at 10 till and jump right in with James Allen. Do a couple of things. Now we're ready to move on to James Allen, who is our state library lead with KDE and always has lots of information and insight and wisdom and resources to bring to us.
Wisdom, oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's some pressure. I'm not sure about wisdom.
Well, you know, most of the time.
Lifelong learner, that's it.
There you go. There you go. But we're excited with you know, we dive into the new Kentucky Academic Standards for Library Media this year. Hopefully you are getting to use those in your library with your learners. And I'm going to hand it over to you now, James.
All right, thank you. Apologies ahead of time if any of this is repeat content for you, but I think sometimes repeating what we know and do and what we feel is important about our standards is important to kind of go back over. So I'm going to share a presentation real quick after I click. Everybody see that okay?
That is good.
All right. So first, thank you to these folks again. I can't say it enough. I'll keep repeating this probably for the next 6 years or so, whatever the cycle is for when we update our standards. But these are the folks that worked on the standards across the state. Probably a lot of folks that are on the call today. So thank you for their time and efforts. Our standards were adopted in May. So something that I think is really important are the common beliefs. And these are actually part of the American Association of School Libraries standards that we also kind of just copied and pasted and put into our Kentucky Academic Standards for Library Media. And I'm going to read them out loud. The school library is a unique and essential part of a learning community. Qualified school librarians lead effective school libraries. Learners should be prepared for college, career, and life. Reading is the core of personal and academic competency. Intellectual freedom is every learner's right. Information technologies must be appropriately integrated and equitably available. So this appears in our standards in the actual document in the PDF. And these are just some frequently asked questions that I get about the standards. One that is probably the top question are the standards required? And in a way they are, but in a way they're not. So the way I think about it is kind of a big R and little r. Ours are a little r, I would say, in terms of requirement. The reason they're required, though, is that every school is required to have a school librarian, whether that's full-time or part-time. And if you have a school library instruction program, which I'm hopefully assuming 99.9% of our schools do, these are the standards that you must use by law. So they're very similar to the computer science standards. You don't have to have a computer science program in your school, but if you do, the computer science standards are the ones you have to use. So our library standards are the same way. The technology standards which we have are a little bit different. They are required and have a graduation requirement tied to them. So they're kind of like next level required, but in a way our library standards are kind of required. So if anybody tells you they're not required, don't listen to them. Another thing that I think about is, are these standards something that is required just for the school librarian to be interested in? I don't think they are. I think they're collaborative standards, just like it's not likely you have one single person in your building that's going to be able to cover all of the technology standards. And I think the library standards are the same way. Your students are doing a lot of this work in their content area classes, and it's important to remember that. And it's important to collaborate with teachers and work on these things together, not feel like it's a checklist that one person has to get through in the building. Another thing that comes up is whether the difference between standards and curriculum, especially I feel like newer teachers sometimes don't quite get the difference. The standards are what we are kind of the goal, what we want students to be able to know and do. They're not how you get to that goal. So they're not telling you how to do it. It's just what we want our students to be able to do. And that kind of brings me to the next thing about reading. I've had some questions about, reading is not in our standards enough. Reading could be tied to every single one of our standards in terms of that's how you get to that standard. Reading is in the common beliefs that we think it's important. It's the center of our learning and everything that we do. So to say that reading is not in the standards is not entirely accurate. You could use reading to meet every single one of the Kentucky Academic Standards for Library Media. I put a link in here. I'll put a link to these slides in the chat in a moment, but this Thoughts for Administrators document is from ASL. I need to add it to my website. It is a really good 1-2 pager of a conversation that you can have with your administrators in your building that kind of wrap around the standards. And I have a link to the standards there for ASL. If you haven't seen our standards yet, they are arranged in this way. So the first thing that makes them a little bit different than the ASL standard, the only thing that makes them different from the ASL standards is that they're broken down by grade band. And if you look over to the far right where it says performance indicator, those are the things that the writing team wrote and added on to the ASL standards in order to make them a little bit more digestible and applicable to each grade level. So we have primary, intermediate, middle, and high for that first little grade band section. The concepts are exactly the same as the shared foundations in the ASL standards. So inquire, include, collaborate, curate, explore, and engage. And then this is kind of interesting. This works the same way with the standards. The standard alone, which are the 4 domains, think, create, share, and grow, are not exactly a complete sentence. You have to tie that to the learning priorities. So the standard plus the learning priority they kind of go together for each of those domains. And I will say, if you first look at the standard, you'll start reading through them and think that they're a little repetitive. But what's repetitive are these think, create, share, and grow. And you've got to think about it through the lens of which shared foundation you're talking about. So even though the language might sound very similar, it really depends on which of those concepts that you're looking at in order to make that make sense. This I'm going to talk about. I have a link to this on my standards website. ASL are the standards that our library standards are based on, and the ISTE standards are the standards that our Kentucky Academic Standards for Technology are based on. ASL has already created a crosswalk that ties these two sets of standards together. So if you're looking at all to do any kind of collaboration with any teacher, this is a good place to start because it kind of shows you how these things tie together. And something that's not really publicized on the ASL website, I feel like, are the school librarian standards and the school library standards, the competencies and alignments. Those are also in this document. So if you look there on the left, you can see the learner standards, but then you also see school librarian and school library standards. So if you're looking for extra resources to kind of evaluate your program, those are there for you. There's what it looks like on the official Kentucky Academic Standards page. And then I'm going to show you a website. So I have this Kentucky Library Media Resources website. I'm going to copy this and put it in the chat right now. I think Sam might have added it to the, or maybe Tara did, added it to the agenda. But on this first page, this may not be super helpful if you've been in school library world for a while, but if you know of any new school librarians, these are kind of the things that I wish I had had like day one, like these are the things you need to know. So we have our standards kind of up there at the top. The specialist frameworks are what we are evaluated on. There's been a little confusion about this, but your district certified evaluation plan must align to these specialist frameworks. And they're very close to the teacher frameworks. There's only one area I believe that's different, but there's a link there for the KDE website that shows you what those look like. KYL chat is still going. We have a chat on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. We'd love to have some new folks on there. It's on Twitter. It's very easy. You just search for KYL chat and include KYL chat in your responses, and it all kind of shows up, and it's a good conversation that we have twice a month. This year, we've kind of been shooting for 30 minutes. It's a little bit shorter than the hour we used to do, so it's a little bit less commitment. I also share out the archives after we get finished with those. If you haven't been to the KASL website, check it out. Lots of resources. The listserv is here, the way you join that. And then I have KYVL on here, the Bluegrass Award, KT, who just shared lots of great information with us. And I'm not sure if they mentioned or not. I don't think they did. School Library Connection is something that KET is providing for Kentucky school librarians again this year. And you can log on with the password, username Kentucky, and the password is libraries. And there are tons and tons of articles on any topic that you can think of that would be relevant to what you're doing in your school library. There are also webinars that you can watch, and there are self-paced workshops if you're needing any extra PD hours or credit. Once you finish the workshop, it sends you a certificate for your time. So definitely check that out. And then I have PBS Learning Media on there. Let me go to the standards. Up here in the top right, you see standards. This is where I have all of our standards resources. I have a blank progression chart that it's in Google Slides, and you can open that up, and it shows, it's kind of the only document I have that shows the standards on one page, K2 through 12th grade, so you can see what those look like. Some of us teach in, I used to teach at Eminent, so I was teaching K through 12, so that would have been a great document for me to organize kind of my thoughts and my planning. This collaborative progression chart is the same thing. It's just one that I've used in 5 or 6 sessions, and people have added their own ideas for meeting each of these standards. And then we have a spreadsheet version, if that would be helpful for you. Here's that crosswalk that I shared just a moment ago. This position statement, actually, Dr. Northern shared with me. It is a great one-page kind of document on maybe 2 pages on how reading is tied into our standards, and it kind of goes across each of those shared foundations and how they tie in. And kind of an ongoing project that we haven't really shared much about yet because we're kind of still building it up a little bit is this KYVL information literacy kind of database. And the goal is to kind of tie together what kind of information literacy teaching that we do from K-12 and make that kind of tie over into post-secondary, into what our college students are being expected to do. And not every single one of our learner standards really apply to information literacy. A lot of them do. But this is going to be kind of a database of lessons that tie these things together in cooperation with KYVL. I also have 2 links here to other state standards, and though Wyoming and Arkansas also use the American Association of School Librarians of Library Standards to create theirs. This just kind of gives you a different picture and might give you some ideas of what it looks like at each of the grade levels. You can see there, the Arkansas, what it looks like at the end of grade 2. I think Wyoming's what it looks like at the end of grade 1, maybe. But those are documents that you might find helpful if you're trying to kind of brainstorm some ideas for meeting these standards. And then there's some graphics down there at the bottom if you need them. Any questions on the standards before I keep going for just another minute or 2? All right. Also on this website, I have put together kind of a list of diversity, equity, inclusion books that you can. I kind of went to Google and just did some kind of a deep diving into Google and finding different lists that had already been put together. There's some single title recommendations that I got from friends on Twitter. Those are all there at your convenience. I also have recently put together some censorship information for you. And if there was a time, now is the time for you to review your challenge policies with your site-based council and with your site-based council. And I haven't heard of a ton of challenges that are going on in Kentucky, but it is kind of a nationwide thing right now. And it is important that we follow the policies that we have in place. I know it's easy to have a knee-jerk reaction to when a parent is upset or a community member is upset and just remove a book, but it's really important to follow the policies that we have in place. This Freedom website is really good. It's kind of like down to earth talk about what challenges look like, why these challenges are happening across the country right now, and things that you can do to kind of be prepared for that. So definitely check out this Freedom website, the first link up here on the top of this website. Then we have some information from ALA. I have 2 selection and development and challenge policies that people have sent to me. If you have one that you would like to share and you don't mind sharing with others, I'll add it to this site so that it can give people some ideas, especially as they're going back and reviewing theirs. And then here's some great information from Utah libraries, and then I have some additional resources down there at the bottom. One other thing KYVL. I've shared these a few times on Twitter on the emails that I send out to you all. I put together 4 short videos of kind of like my favorite 4 KYVL resources: Tumblebook, Britannica, and the EBSCO K8 ebook collection and Opposing Viewpoints. These are like really short 1 to 2 minute videos that you can share with your kids or your teachers to show what is available through KYVL. KDE is reimbursing school districts for KYVL this year. So if your district has not been reimbursed yet, email me, let me help you out with that. It's not an automatic thing. We're not paying for KYVL, we're reimbursing. Those are 2 different things. We are also doing that next year, which is awesome. We're using ESSER funds to do this, but they will run out, unfortunately. But hopefully these 2 years will give us a chance to get KYVL back on the radar for some districts that have not been members for almost 10 years when it kind of went away funding wise, and get that as a line item on their yearly budgets. And speaking of KYVL, this is kind of the interactive part of this little share today that I wanted to have. Something that I'm kind of focusing on is looking at the possibilities of having single sign-on work for KYVL, which I have wanted for a long time. Just as I was a school librarian, KYVL works okay when you're at school and there's IP-based authentication, but the pandemic has shown us that learning happens a lot of places and not always at school. And it can be a little clunky and a little difficult to get online, get KYVL going when you're at home. So what I was kind of hoping, I don't know if you could unmute or put in the chat, if there's a time or a situation where single sign-on would be good for you. And if you don't know what single sign-on, and that's kind of where you go to a service and you either use your Google account, your Google for EDU account, or your Office 365 account to log in. So those are credentials that we all have access to. I know a lot of younger students around the state are using Clever with badges and such to log into to things. So I was kind of just hoping to get some stories from you all that would kind of help me in my support of single sign-on. Anybody have any ideas or thoughts on that or questions?
Well, as you mentioned, Clever, that's what we use in my building. So we're elementary school, and students, even in first grade, memorize their 10-digit number within a few months. And so once they know that number to log on to their Chromebooks, which takes them to their Google account, then they have access to everything. And within Clever, I can curate a library page. I used to use Symbaloo a lot, but now since everybody's on Clever, I curate resources on my library Clever page. And we also use Schoology learning management system. And so I can link Schoology into Clever. So it's just not only can you, put your district, provided apps and links in Clever, but you can do external links too. So I can make a button that students click on to go to something that might not be an official app, but it's a resource I want students to use or an activity to go online for. So with being one-to-one in a Chromebook and students take those home for NTI and they have them in the building, being able to know that 1 10-digit number that they can memorize and get onto everything has been incredible. And now they do it without having much hesitation or difficulty at all, even in the first grade.
Another thing that hopefully, I'm not positive on the details, but I know we get usage statistics from KYVL, but they're not super helpful, especially if you're in a larger district. It shows kind of usage, but it doesn't tell you exactly who is using the resources. So you don't know which school it is. You don't know which grade level it is. I'm hoping that single sign-on will give us more of that information, because there is nothing at KDE that we provide to schools where we do not have data to support it. And right now, I just don't feel like KYVL gives us enough data. We don't know if it's one librarian going to Tumblebooks, 20 times, or if that's 20 different kids. We have just very little information on usage. So I'm hoping single sign-on will kind of give us a little bit more information there too. Anybody else have, I see one thing in the chat. Anybody else have any other thoughts on single sign-on or KYVL? Don't be afraid. Unmute.
And you also created some tutorials, didn't you, James? Like on how to use Tumblebooks and some quick little video clips. Those are on your library site?
Yeah, they're on the library site. Yep.
Okay.
Well, keep that in mind. I might ask a little more formally in the emails that I send out to you. I might have a Google form where you can kind of give me some ideas on how single sign-on might help with you. It might help you use KYVL with your students. So I'm excited about the prospects of that. I'll let you know as we progress. But thank you all for having me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it. And as James mentioned in his spiel, every school, A1 school, must have a certified librarian. And I know that we are getting close to that time. By March 1 is when your site-based councils have to start deciding on staffing applications for next school year. And so just be mindful of being your own advocate. A lot of times in our buildings, you are the one librarian, but you are the keeper of multiple resources. You can be the champion literacy learner in your building. And move that work forward with all of your teachers. So definitely be your advocate with your administration, with your site-based council, and definitely talk about all the things that you provide, not only to your teachers, but to your students and your learners. So we'll get James's slides added to the agenda. And as always, we thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you all.
All right, now we're going to move on to the next part of the agenda. We're happy to have Diana Wolf from TC Cherry Elementary in Bowling Green City Schools joining us, and to do our first part of Destiny tips and tricks. And so I know in most districts in the Gregg region, Destiny is what we use as our online catalog. And there are always updates that roll out, and depending upon whether you're Follett hosted or district hosted, those can come at different times. And sometimes you don't always get the greatest information about what's changed. And just if you're new to the role, or, there might be just certain things back there that you didn't even know it was capable of doing. So we're super excited to have Diana join us and talk about Destiny.
All right. Well, ignore anything behind me. It might be a little crazy in here. It's been a crazy whole year, but that's a whole other story. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna share my I don't want to share my desktop. Let's see. That's not the one I want either. Hang on a second. I'm on my Chromebook because my computer is so old. All right, let's try to share this one. Okay. And let's bring my Zoom back. Can I see it? Okay. Can you all see my slideshow? I cannot see my slideshow.
It's loading there, but we're good.
Okay. I was like, what I see is not there, but I'll pretend. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about some Destiny tips and tricks. This is just part 1. You can feel free to email me anytime about anything. It doesn't have to be Destiny. you know, I know our listserv is one of the most popular in Kentucky. At least I think it is. I joined before I was ever a librarian and gotten a lot of tips and tricks. So you might see some of your own tips and tricks there. Most of the links in this are not going to link for you. So if you do open this up and try to use them, they probably won't work unless you're a BGISD, because we have, you know, specific logins for that. But they're just for me. So the first thing, this is just kind of what it looks like when you're in the catalog. And then you could click on it, but I'm just going to exit that for a second. So right here, this is just the catalog page. And, you know, whenever you log in, usually it'll take you to home. So it'll look a little different. And then catalog is just where you go. And then you have all of these different things. This part right here is pretty self-explanatory, but in case you don't know, and sometimes I kind of get myself in trouble whenever I will go to search for something. I might search from another school, or I might change my reading level or something down here, interest level, for when I'm looking for something specific. And if I don't change it back, sometimes it'll keep filtering. And I'm like, why can't I find more things? So be careful of that. But you have your keyword, your title, all of this stuff here. You can go through and search a little differently. But we're going to talk a little bit more about different categories. So getting back in. So the very first one, when you look, is at how you search for books. That one's pretty easy. And I end up using that a lot. I try to have my teachers use that, but you know, they don't. I guess they always ask me, send me questions. So I end up using it the most, I think. The second part is the Destiny Discover. And this will take you to the student search page if you have that set up for your students. One thing I really like about it, these links will work for you. There's little videos. I already pulled those up. This right here, I'm just going to kind of show you how to log in, but whenever you're in Destiny Discover, it will take you through to show you kind of like what the topics are. And these are the topics that I have set. And that's kind of what the video is going to show you, where you can actually change these specifically for your students. And so this very first one will show you the login for that, which I guess is really what I just did actually. And that way it'll go on and make sure that you're logged in with your information from here. You could go in a different way and log in, but this is just one of the ways. So once you're in, you'll see at the top, mine says welcome back site, because that's apparently my username, or, you know, my name. So we're looking at how to do add the topics. You're going to go to admin. And it's cool because these are, you know, for elementary, but you can do more. So then the second video shows where that kind of picks up. So it takes you to this page right here. And you're going to go to display options, featured content. And then we're looking at the topics. So we're going to scroll down to where topics are, and then you're going to go in and edit that. And you can edit all of these things. This was just one of the ones that really was something that I wanted to do. All of these are by my sublocation from my catalog that I have done more for my genreification. But I thought this would also help our students to find books as well. So at the top, you can go through and search the topics that are already there. You can add a blank topic, and then you can enter that information. Right here, you can add it. It could be keywords. It could be anything you wanted it to be. But when you click on it, it also will have, so you can add your picture, whatever you want it to be, or you can upload your own icon as well. And you can cancel or save. I guess it didn't show right on there. Anyway, you can have it be keyword. You can have it be sublocation, whatever kind of you want it to be on there when you go in to do that. And that just kind of gives you a little bit more of a catalog to be able to share with your students, so that when you click on it, they can find books. You know, my students love humor books, and they will come and ask, you know, what's this? And so this is just one way that you can kind of teach them to be a little more independent on searching for those things. So they don't have to necessarily search for the title of a book. They can search by genre within and a little bit easier. Okay. The next two aren't things that we use in our district, so I cover those. And then adding the title. So let me log back in. It is a little finicky. I don't know if yours is as finicky as ours, but when I get logged out, it kind of keeps me logged out. Or like it doesn't want me to go back, and it's weird. So, okay, in the catalog, when you go to add title, this was kind of a cool one. If you're not familiar with it, you can change, if I'm going to add a book, I can add it by the title, the author, subject, or even the ISBN to search for whatever you're looking for. That way you don't have to add all of the information into the record. So I have this book beside me. Let's see if it's in there. Creepy Case Files of Margot Malou. Now, sometimes it doesn't always find what you're looking for, so then you can kind of add it in differently. But this is it, so you kind of go through, and so this is the one that I would go with, and it is the Monster Mall. So I could click on it. I could decide if I wanted to add that as a copy. And this gives you just all of that information. So if you don't have the MARC record for it, you can go in and add that in. So that's super helpful. And again, you can scan that with the ISBN. That is also very helpful. I've done that with a lot of my books, especially like Junior Library Guild before I did the cataloging, got them to do the cataloging for me. That was one of the things. And even when you do like a back order or do, you know, an order that's not the same, that can make a difference too. So one of the other big things I really like, and I'm just going to go down this list. The resource list right here is something that's been really helpful. Sometimes when I'm searching, I add a whole page and I don't mean to, and I add to the wrong one, but that's okay. I can go back in and change all of that later, but I just pulled some civil rights books for a teacher, yesterday. And when I pulled those books up, I added them to this list. I could go in and edit that list. And I did that for me to be able to help pull those books, but also I could share that with that teacher. And in here, I might have deleted them. But if I need to need labels right here. So books that I need labels for, I can go in and I can put those books in that list to make it easier when I get to reports to pull labels as well. So there's lots of different lists you can create. This just makes it really easy. If you're pulling the same books every year, you can, you know, if you're setting them out, you can add them to this list to be able to pull that pretty easily. So whenever you're library searching, not circulation, when you're searching for that book, let's see, like I said, yesterday I just did civil rights and I did keyword and subject, and it did come up with a few different ones. Then I can come over here, here's civil rights, and it already shows me what I've added to the list, and I can go through and I can add more. It doesn't let me uncheck it out of the list. I have to go through a different way. I could be doing that wrong, but I haven't found a way to uncheck it. This one just takes me to the list where I can remove it. But you can just click that. Let's see, you can't go back. Don't go back. That's and then like I said, when I try to do it, I always have it right easily. Which makes it really nice that it's up here because we have, I let my students check out on one of the boards and they know how to log in. It's saved and it makes it really nice. Okay, back to my resource list. So if you're searching, you can add those right in. You can come in, you can edit, you can delete them if you don't want to use them. You can make them public for your, you know, local students or teachers. We're going to go to the next one here is importing titles. I, a lot of times, don't change a lot of this stuff. I keep kind of where it's at. And because I'm importing, here's some of my recent imports. Because I'm importing MARC records, I don't have to change the barcode because they're already in there. Because they're usually coming from vendors when I do this. And then I just choose my file. And then a lot of times I will go through preview, because I had some issues. I don't typically do it except with one of my vendors who I have continual. That's my tip. I continually forget about some of my barcodes that I've had to change them, or I thought they were changed and they didn't get changed with them and they had to resend them. And anyway, so sometimes I'll preview them just to make sure that it's correct and I can go and look and see what my issues are. But this is an easy way. And that is something that I'm going to shoot for part 2 of this, is to find out a way to do MARC records. So if you have a good way, a good program, I know we've sent it on the listserv a few times about MARC records and trying to figure out the easiest way to do that. If you have a way, let me know. If not, that's my goal for the next one. But you can assign the next barcode if you're uploading it and you don't already have barcodes in there. You can add titles from a list, so you can make your own list, and you could do it that way as well, and add that for your barcode. But you'd have to have the books already in your system, and they just wouldn't have a copy yet, if that makes sense. Exporting titles, we're going to talk about this in the next one too. If I go back here to show you. We're going to talk about exporting titles and tidal wave in part 2 about the collection analysis. There are a couple different ways and different vendors and different sites that you can do that with. That is really cool. I don't typically mess with the update titles. If you do, I mean, there's stuff that this could definitely be used for. This is just not something that I have needed to use very often, but I do use the update copies. This is deleting individual copies, but you can batch delete. If you put that in, I believe it has to be, is it a text file, which you can do by scanning into like a spreadsheet and then downloading it, and you can track it as weeding if you would like to. That way you know that was weeded. Individual update. This one is one that I did with a lot of my, when I was doing my genres. I was doing the sublocation, and I would change what I was going to change it to, graphic novel. I might change the category, and also the same, but that way it was in 2 different places whenever the students were looking for it. And then circulation type typically wasn't going to change, but I do have some, I've added some Chromebooks for my intermediate students on this as well. So I could use that for that part as well. And then you could just scan your code in, or you can type it in. With your batch update, you could enter multiple barcodes. Again, that file, add that in, and you could change your copy field. A lot of times I, would just have them beside me when I did the batch update that way. And I would scan them as I went through and then make sure they had all of this selected. So like changing my sub location too. And that was one that was really helpful for me. And then get back here. So that was how I did with my genre. I didn't want to change all of my barcodes. And so if I changed it in the sublocation, whenever they looked up what they were looking for, then they could see within on Destiny Discover, they could see that the book, what it was, where it was, and that was good enough for our students rather than having to go in and change everything on it. So let's see, a book. I think Dogman, is Dogman 1 word, 2 words? I always mess up on that every time. Okay. So right here, the sublocation shows up and it's graphic novel, and it does the same in Destiny Discover, which the students are looking at as well. And when I get new books like this one right here, I haven't gone in to make sure I've changed it. And so you just want to make sure that you go in every time, and it's pretty easy to do. You can do it within that specific copy. Go right here. You can go to, these are all the copies that you can see, but we're going to change the whole copy. Oops. Apparently I have a couple I need to change. Title details. Edit title. And maybe it's not in this part. No subtype assigned. That's why I go in the other way to do it, I think, because I get confused on this part. You can go in and change other things on this part right here. That's again why I go this way to do it. It just kind of makes more sense when I go through the update on this way. But I know there's a way to do it on the other way too. But since you all are watching this, you know I can't get it. I'll come back to that. We only have a few minutes anyway. If I have time. Okay. I think that's it too. The rush. So if you order, so these are things I've learned. If you order from different vendors or add your own titles, make sure you check your barcodes. This has been my issue. I thought I had them changed, and then I would add new ones and they would run over the ones that I had. So I changed them, and then I guess they didn't realize that I changed them. So that was an issue with some of my barcodes. The sublocation to say you can genreify, super helpful. You don't have to change your barcodes. And again, this was a tip from another library media specialist, possibly somebody here today. And then this one, you can scan a barcode and enter it right then and there. This has been full with my Chromebooks. Especially, we've gotten new students constantly, and I don't have all of my Chromebooks added. So if I go to check out a Chromebook to someone, I just want to myself. When I add it in, and this is a tag that is already on the Chromebook for inventory reasons through the district. And so this isn't anything that I have to create. It's already there when I click find copy. This one should not have anything in here yet. And do you want to check it out? Yes. So right here, I uncheck this because I don't want it to be deleted when it gets checked in. So then I'll go through and I'll add Chromebook. My circulation type is Chromebook. And that was something that I was able to change in my admin as well. My call number, I'm putting in the type of Chromebook it is because we have different ones. So this allows me to know whenever I see it, that's what student has. And then this number also corresponds to a serial code that I have in a spreadsheet. So I can look that up pretty easily if we have an issue. And then I can change it to Chromebook here. Now this also, or equipment, by changing the circulation type to Chromebook, I've also been able to say that this doesn't have to be checked in for a whole year. So this allows a student to know their Chromebook number right here, what their barcode is in case something happens, they get them mixed up or whatever. This also will allow me to pull that for teachers if they need to know who has what Chromebook in their own classrooms. And then it allows me to see if there's an issue with that Chromebook. I can find the student, find the serial number, and get with technology to figure out what we need to do for that. But it does keep it checked out for a whole year so they don't get the notice where the books are still like every 2 weeks on that. So then I click save. Add this to the existing record. Yes, because I already have some that have the same call number and title, but it doesn't have the same barcode. But that's fine, added to the existing record. So there it is. So now here we have this copy of that Chromebook checked out to me. And then when I check it in, it is just going to check it in. No big deal. But now that record is in here. Oh, that's check-in, sorry. FA 13298. And now it's checked in, but I could have had it for a whole year. Here's the due date. So it's not due until June. And I think maybe I set the due date instead of that way. If somebody new came in, I just set the date for June in case we had any days. So that should be all for the catalog. Like I said, there's a lot more we can go into detail on. I kind of wanted to start somewhere. That way I can see kind of what you want to know more about. I'm going to talk just a little bit about reports. Reports can be, this is things I've learned. Reports can be saved and edited. We had to work with IT to send reports to emails and IC for whatever report we are running. So I just ran the other day, a report, maybe even yesterday, the current checkouts for books. And I had a parent email me last night and, you know, we were trying to figure out, because it was a weird one. Like it said that I owed them money, but anyway, the whole record was kind of a weird record. But it allowed it to go to, you can choose as many emails as you want, so it can go to all the emails in IC. Now this we had to have set up, and I know a lot of you do. That's how I knew that this could work for sure. You know, I said, hey guys, we need to get this to be able to work for our district, because I know it's working in another district. So this can be done, but we had to work, our IT department had to work with Destiny to get it to all figure out, so that we can send those out to, you know, the student or whoever, whatever emails are listed in IC, to send that out to say, hey, this is a book, can you please return it? We can do the same thing with those Chromebooks. I can choose specifically what I want. So this is that current checkout and fines. So right here, that is the one that I just ran. That was a lost and damaged one. You can come over here, you can run, you can edit them. So these are kind of saved for a little bit differently. They have different wording in them. You can choose what you want here. I chose, you know, that are overdue, which we were a school that we had some of our families that were hit by the tornado. So, you know, there were some students who are displaced, and we have a lot of transient students. So even if they weren't displaced, if they moved for another reason, who knows where that book is. So try to send this out when they move as well, just to see if we can get those books back. But a lot of times we don't. You can kind of choose though, again, if you want to do a report, if you want to do notices. Notices are how I typically will do the ones for the email, and then you can go through. And then I'm going to do one more report, or like look at it, and you can print your copy barcodes from a resource list for new books or barcodes that, you know, I needed to redo if mine are messed up, and that is on that barcode label. You can choose your list, right? You can choose what it is, a list, and then you can choose what the list is. So you can do that through your resource list instead of having to create a separate barcode list. You could just figure out what those books were. And you can also find what your top and bottom titles are. These are just kind of the things that I started with, so that you can kind of know what they're looking at or what's not being circulated, so that, you know, you can get those books out, or weeding. Which your collection analysis will also give you some tips for weeding too. I know some people are great at weeding. They have no problem just throwing the books out. And some people, like me, have a harder problem with that. But those reports are going to be really helpful to get that under control too. And the last thing, because I am for time, what tip or trick should I share next time? What do you want to know about Destiny that you don't know yet? And this is just feedback to guide part 2. There is the bit.ly. If you have the link, you can click it, but I just put the bit.ly up there in case you had not clicked into my slides yet. Tell me what you want to know. I can try to find some answers for you. Like I said, I'm planning on getting the MARC records, trying to figure out how to make that work. I know there's a couple different ways, but I just haven't found the easiest way, because that's where, you know, what I think that most of us want. We want the way that's going to be the easiest, that's not going to take a whole lot of time, because, you know, we have so many other things that we need to do. So it helps when we find something that is a little bit easier. This is the way to do it. This is the easiest way. Again, like I said, the sublocation, when I genreified the library, I really just wanted to know what's the easiest way to do this. I don't want to put new barcodes. And I know librarians who did, and they were like, oh, this took me so long. And I was like, oh, mine wasn't as bad as I expected. But again, I had to have someone else kind of help with that. So let me know if you have questions. You can email me, you can give me feedback, and let me know what you want to know next.
All right, thank you, Diana. And as we know that, you know, we all pay our fee to have our Destiny, but it's available for so much more than just our online catalog or circulation management system. We need to be fully utilizing what's there in order to promote the books that's coming in, to create those resource lists for our teachers, to run the statistics, to show our administration, you know, why we need a more robust budget, but also to help us with those tasks like cataloging and weeding and inventory. And so we've added the bit.ly for and asking for feedback for everybody to kind of guide our part 2 for the spring meeting. And thank you for the time on that. And so now we're going to jump right on into our next section, which we are welcoming Tim Kane from Mackin and Kelly Reno, who is the librarian at Frederick Douglass High School in Lexington, to talk to us about the Kentucky Shared Collection. So thank you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. It's exciting to see. I see a lot of familiar names on here, so I won't be nearly as nervous as I normally am during these presentations. So with that being said, I know you all have an author coming in at 11, so we'll just kind of move right into it. Feel free. I know a lot of you are already on here, are already participating in the Kentucky Shared Collection. So feel free to throw your experience in the chat. We have Kelly to help monitor the chat, and she's also going to talk about her experience. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll go ahead and get rolling. Okay, so as I said, I know a lot of you are very familiar with the Kentucky Shared Collection already. What it is, essentially, it's an extremely economical way to get access to thousands of high interest digital ebooks and audiobooks every year at an affordable price that is consistent, and for fear of not losing out on any part of your collection. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. So essentially what it is, it's the only statewide shared ebook and audiobook collection that is specific to Kentucky and K through 12 schools. So every single title is handpicked by some of your colleagues, Kelly included, that are on the title selection committee to meet the needs of Kentucky students and educators every single year. So every year, the way it works, we purchase new packages. So it's not like a database to where you purchase this database and you get it for a year. So you purchase a package, that year's package, and then typically 60% of the titles in that package are perpetual, so you'll have access to them forever. If you don't choose to participate in future years' packages, you don't have to worry about losing access to any of your content. So whatever you purchase into, you get access to for however long that licensing is for. And this is our second year with the Kentucky Shared Collection. 2022, 2023 will be our third year. In a little bit, I'll really kind of show you how buying in and purchasing multiple years can really add up to the amount of content that you and your school will have access to forever. The other big thing I always like to make sure I point out is there's no hosting or renewal fees. So if you have something in the budget this year, maybe you have some ESSER funds left over to where you can participate, but you're unsure if you're going to be able to participate in the future, you don't ever have to fear about us locking you out of your content. So whatever you purchase, in that package that you have access to, you get access to it for however long that licensing term is for. Really quickly, for those of you who aren't familiar, the digital platform that hosts the Kentucky Shared Collection is called Mackin. So this is our digital platform that's free. It's a single sign-on platform to where you can set up student accounts very easily for your students to be able to access. Teachers have a lot of cool tools to where they can create groups and assign groups to their students. There's note-taking ability, highlighting. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'll make sure that I get the slides to Tara so she can post them in the document so you can access, but then also you can reach out to me if you're interested in learning more at any point in time. Okay, so there are 5 different packages that are available in the Kentucky Shared Collection each year. So there's 3 grade level packages. There's a K through 5, a 6 through 8, and a 9 through 12. And then there's also 2 additional packages. There's the professional learning package, which Tara actually is the head coordinator and curator of that package. And then also just this past year, we added an English language learners package. So titles to meet the needs of the different demographics that represent Kentucky that might not be represented in a typical collection or typical database collection of ebooks. As I mentioned before, how are titles selected? You know, you don't want me, just some Joe Schmo who used to teach health and PE, picking out the titles for this collection, which is why we have an amazing title selection committee with Kelly and Tara and several other colleagues throughout the state that are on it, that hand select each title based on the needs of what Kentucky students want to read, and also, you know, what academic standards that we can support through choosing nonfiction titles and fiction titles to meet curricular needs for teachers as well. Every year, each titles package includes the KBA Master List nominees. I don't think there's any faster way to get your hands on the KBA Master List nominees, because as soon as they're announced, we're ready and we purchase them. You don't have to worry about submitting a PO. And I believe last year we got them loaded within 3 or 4 days from when they were announced. So it's a really fast, quick way to get access to those nominees. And a lot of the title selection committee just so happens to be on the KBA selection committee. So a lot of those titles are already in there. So wink, wink, that's a huge added bonus. And one of the big things, and I'll talk about this here in a second, is the number of titles and copies, this always comes up, is determined by the number of schools participating. So the more schools that are participating in a package, the more students that are obviously going to need access to those titles. So we base how many titles and copies we purchase on that. And we've done a really good job with our model to where we've really limited the amount of wait time students have to wait for those high interest titles. I'm going to kind of skip over this one since we're kind of hurting for time. But essentially, if you're not familiar with ebook licenses, publishers are really, really aggressive and sometimes greedy, for lack of a better term. So the licenses are all over the place, which is why the Kentucky Shared Collection is such a great way to get access to thousands of ebooks for, you know, essentially pennies on the dollar when you're looking at it. So what are the benefits of the Kentucky Shared Collection? The biggest one is being able to own your own digital collection. You know, it's not paying into a database where it's a subscription based to where if you don't renew next year, you lose access to all the content you purchased. So anything that's perpetually licensed, you have access to that forever. And I'll give you a little breakdown of some numbers of what that would look like here in just a second. And as I mentioned before, there's no yearly renewal or hosting fees for fear losing access to any of the content that you've purchased into. So for example, this year, I think we rolled the titles out, the first round of titles in the beginning of September. You'll have access to all of those titles that are that have a year subscription license until September of that following year. If it's a 2-year subscription, you'll have access for 2 years, even if you choose not to participate in future years' collections. I've mentioned it's high interest. This is state of the art. Every year, you don't have to worry about a bunch of nonfiction, multi-user titles that aren't high interest. Every single thing is chosen each year to be either a part of or help grow if you've purchased in years past. And the great thing about that is, as you all already know, kids aren't reading the same thing that they were reading 5 years ago. So the collection grows with the needs and the interests of our students year in and year out. Value. This is probably the coolest thing about it. So if you take a look at, we'll just kind of focus on the K through 5. The K through 5 package from the past 2 years. So the average price for schools to participate is $587 in that K through 5 package. And that's all based on the size of your school. In 2020, 2021, that package for $587 was worth over $970,000 worth of content. This year, it's worth over $84,000 worth of content. So a K through 5 school that participated this year and last year, essentially for a little over $1,100, is getting close to $175,000 worth of content. 60% of that is perpetual. So more than $100,000 for that $1,000, those K through 5 schools will have access to that content forever. So that's really where we kind of show where that added value is being put in, and it doesn't put the burden on you as an individual school to spend a massive amount of your budget on ebooks and audiobooks. I mentioned wait times. Our model that we have set up based on how many copies and titles has our wait times on average to 3 to 4 days. So students aren't having to wait long periods of time. We're big focusing this year and moving forward on curricular support, titles that support KY academic standards, curricular goals. Your teachers have the ability to create groups and resources and assign those to students. And also Mac and Via, the digital platform in which everything's hosted, integrates with several different learning management systems, Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, just to name a few. This is where I'm going to kind of turn it over to Kelly so she can share her experience. But as you can see, this is our current title selection committee. They're absolutely amazing. You already know several people that are on it. So you can feel free to reach out to any of us anytime if you ever have any questions. But with that being said, Kelly, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Tim. And really, I was taking some notes while Tim was talking. Just wanted to share a few sort of common questions and just like some real talk. So one, when we talk about the pricing structure, I can tell you that at the beginning of this school year, I bought outright 29 ebook copies from Mackin, and that PO for those 29 copies was $605.80. And so for the $1,000 that I paid for the KSC, I got 442 copies of KSC books. So, one, if you need that sort of proof of like, where's the value, it's right there. The other thing that I like is that, so one, commonly asked questions, Mac and Via also integrates with Destiny. So like when my kids sign in, they can access all of their Mac and Via Kentucky Shared Collection titles through Fall at Destiny. They can log in, single sign in through that. So it's really a seamless experience for them, which is great. The other piece is that we have the ability on the back end as librarians, I can pull my usage stats for the KSC titles from my library. I don't have to reach out to anybody else to do that. I can just go ahead and get that information. And so I use those stats to help me figure out what I need to order additionally. So like Tim mentioned with the different types of licenses, we don't put in anything that's only licensed for 26 checkouts, just because that doesn't make a lot of sense. Unfortunately, a lot of our more popular authors, because publishers know the model, they are only 26 checkouts. So when I go to order books for my school, I'm either ordering those or I'm looking at the stats for books that are in the KSC that maybe are only 1 or 2 year subscriptions. And I'm saying, okay, do I want to keep that longer for my library? And so it's nice to be able to pull that individually. I will say that, we started with about $40,000 worth of ebooks at FDHS when we opened in 2017. I just pulled my stats for this year. And as far as readership goes, the kids who are reading books that I have purchased through the Kentucky Shared Collection, they're reading almost 2.5 times the amount of books from the KSC as they are from our local like permanent collection. So they're definitely interested in the titles on them. The other thing that you need to know, we have questions about how does the KSC age our collection, right? If there is something in the KSC, especially that you have perpetual, and you decide a couple years down the road, I don't think that's relevant anymore. My students aren't really reading it. Or if there's something that maybe you get with the middle grades collection that you're like, I'm not sure that that's completely age relevant to my students. I'm not sure that I want this specifically in my collection. You can also hide those titles. I mean, I know we try not to hide books, but in the case that you really feel like something is just not meshing with your library and your patrons, you can do that. So there's also a level of individual control that is just really nice to have as a librarian. But to also know that for that, and we are committed to keeping our subscription prices as consistent and as possible. So just to know that every year I can budget, for me, $1,000 and buy into the KSC and get a bunch of new ebooks and continue building my collection is really, really helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. Yeah, so you know, and that's kind of one of the things we've had a lot of schools, you know, that don't have a lot of budgets, and so I have schools that participated the first year, but then took this year off because so many of the subscription licenses are 2-year or 3-year subscription licenses, and then they're going to join 2022, 2023 again. So then, you know, they can kind of space it out and then allocate those funds every other year to go to other things they need to upkeep their library. So there's just so many added benefits that are going on with them.
And I think the other thing that I meant to talk about is, I know a lot of people have had questions about, well, we're not virtual this year. And so, you know, I'm not feeling as much of a need. Even though we're not virtual as much, we do know that we're in a place where kids are still, sometimes they're out, sometimes they're in. We've got weather playing a factor. You know, I think NTI is going to be with us, especially with weather and other things, you know, for the duration. And so having that access is really nice. I know at the high school level, I can't get every English classroom into the library in the first 2 weeks of school for independent reading. And what's great is that I've formed relationships with some of my colleagues in the English department who the first 3 weeks of school, all their kids do is read ebooks for independent reading through Mac and Via, because they're training their kids on what independent reading is, how to access books, and they're working with me so that their kids actually know how to use the library catalog. And I kind of love it because it's like my freshman teachers who are doing it.
Well, and I'm glad Kelly said that, because you know, some of you out there might be hesitant, or maybe you've done ebooks in the past and they just don't circulate. The number one way, if you want to increase circulation statistics for ebooks and audiobooks, is get your classroom teachers involved. English teachers love being able to just teach their kids how to use Mac and Via so that they can go in and choose any type of high interest title that they want for independent reading. And then they don't have to worry about passing out titles, collecting titles back, anything like that. Okay, so we'll kind of keep rolling. This blew me away. I asked our digital services team to run usage statistics. So you all, the Kentucky Shared Collection isn't even a year and a half old. And up to yesterday, we have had over 475,000 titles read since we first rolled out the first grouping of titles in October of 2020. So that just kind of goes to show how amazing the title selection committee is. They really, really do an amazing job of choosing high interest titles that your kids are going to want to read. But when I saw that yesterday, I was blown away. It made me feel good, because I know that, you know, the Kentucky Shared Collection really is, you know, serving and meeting the needs of educators and students all over the state. Here are our prices for this upcoming school year. So I'll mention this in a second, but we'll open up enrollment in the beginning of April, and enrollments open all the way till essentially the end of August. So if you have funds that you want to spend, if your fiscal year ends on the end of June, you can sign up and spend those additional funds now. Or if your budget doesn't get released until July 1st and you've already allocated all your funds this year, we try and keep a wide enrollment period for you to sign up. The only additional thing is we're raising the professional learning package slightly this year because Tara has some great ideas, in addition with the title selection committee, about providing professional development for schools that participate in the professional learning package, with how teachers can utilize the titles within that package. So as I mentioned, real quick, ordering, essentially what'll happen, if you're interested, you can email me, and I'll put my email up in just a second. I will send you an email from when the enrollment window is open. You'll be able to sign up. You can request a PO, a quote or an invoice, and then we'll accept POs all the way through August 23rd. So as long as you get your PO in by August 23rd, doesn't matter when you sign up, you're basically guaranteed participation in the 2022-2023 collection. And the first round of titles will roll out in early September. We do 3 title rollouts. We're getting ready to release all the ALA award winners, in addition to some other titles that were added. And then, like I said, we'll add the KBA award winners as well. With that being said, we are right on 11 o'clock at the dot. If you're interested in joining or have any questions, please feel free to email me. I believe when Tara sent the initial email out of who was talking, I think my email was on there. But yeah, so thank you all so much. And yeah, we look forward to hopefully you renewing or joining the Kentucky Shared Collection moving forward.
And reach out to anybody on the committee is more than happy to answer questions.
Yeah, there you
for
go.
you all as well.
I have some
But
names up there, yeah.
yeah, thank you all so much for having us. I gotta pop off here. I got a class coming in, but bye, G-Rec.
Thank you guys so much. And again, please reach out to Tim, Kelly. You can also email myself or Renee, or many of you know Emily Northcutt. If you have any questions about the Kentucky Shared Collection, ideas of how you could get administration or others in the building, maybe partners to join in and offer this to your learners. Okay, now the part that gets me excited about every one of our network sessions is our featured author that we want to provide to you. And the one we have today is no stranger. She's been with us when we met in person at GREC. Anybody that comes to Warren County Public Library knows that we are very blessed to have her as one of our public librarians here. If you were at AASL, you had the opportunity to meet her. But, you know, as librarians, authors are our rock stars. They're what get us and both our students excited about reading. Every time I have heard her speak, she has brought all the feels, whether it's delight and emotion and just everything. And her books are phenomenal. I'm so excited. Can't wait to read this next one. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Court Stevens, joining us today to talk about all things with her new book and just about being an author. So welcome to our GRIC Learning Network. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
All right, awesome. I'm going to share my screen. So you help me through this little awkward, this will be fun. You know, like, I always love it when it looks crazy. Let's see. All right. You guys got me?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
That's interesting. I always love it when that happens. All right. Okay.
Now we do. You are good.
All right. Do you have my whole presentation or just the? You got it now?
Yes, we see
Okay.
Court Stevens, author and stuff. Looks great.
That's right, author and stuff. I feel like the and stuff is probably the more interesting part, but since you guys want to hear about being an author, definitely we'll try and hit on all of that. First of all, today is super cool for me that this is happening because I know so many of you that are on here, and today is actually the actual release date of We Were Kings. Like, it just happened to fall on today, and so that's super crazy cool for me. So you guys are my very first audience to talk to about We Were Kings. So that means I'm probably a little nervous. You do this for years and years, and it doesn't go away. The amp of it doesn't go away. So I'm going to try and walk you guys through just a little bit. I know some of you know me really well, but I didn't know if you kind of knew a little bit about my pedigree. Look, I have on the same shirt. I did not plan that. So I am the community outreach manager at Warren County Public Library. I've been here for a couple years now. Absolutely fell in love with being a librarian. Before that, I was a bookseller at Parnassus Books. I taught independent marketing for JKS Communications. I was Ruta Sepetys. I hope many of you already know her. I was her personal assistant for 4 or 5 years. She is one of my best friends on the planet, and I would be absolutely remiss if I did not tell you all that there's another massive book birthday going on today. It's her book birthday. I Must Betray You. Her latest title came out today. We get to share book birthdays, so that's always fun. We were texting each other this morning. If you don't have that, go get it. If you have to choose between my book and her book in your budget, get her book. Just trust me on that. She's so phenomenal. You will not be disappointed. I also spent a year or so developing a set of curriculum that I would tour with Maggie Stiefvater nationwide. That was the 7 Sentences tour. And we went all the way across the country doing writing workshops, which was super awesome. Worked for HarperCollins. That's who I've been with this entire time of being an author. I've been at 2 different imprints. I'm with Rosemary Brosnan's imprint in New York, and I'm with Thomas Nelson's imprint in Nashville. So sometimes people are like, why did you change your name? Why has it gone from Courtney C. Stevens to Courtney Stevens to Court Stevens? And I think they're all like, are these pronoun changes or things like that? And I'm like, no, it's just publishing. One, I went from Courtney C. Stevens because I always thought I was going to be published under that if I ever was published, because you spend most of your early writing life dreaming of what your book would look like on a shelf. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to publish under Courtney C. Stevens. And then I figured out that Courtney C. Stevens looks funny on a spine. That sounds funny, but most of your books, your book is only flat out in a bookstore for a really short window of time. It ends up like this, as many of you know, for most of its life. And so I started thinking about what would look best here. And I was like, let's get rid of the C. I couldn't get Harper, New York to change to Court Stevens. And they were like, no, that's too far. It's too far. But Harper Thomas Nelson was happy to change it. And it actually worked out really well for branding. So if you are reading me as Courtney C. Stevens, then for the most part, those are contemporary, realistic novels. If you're reading me as Court Stevens, those are mysteries and thrillers. And I've sold another couple of those. And so I plan to be on the mystery thriller route for a long time. The last 2 things that are on here are State Street United Methodist. So I spent a long time being a student minister. And people often ask me, why do I write for teens? And that's who I spent the most time with in my early adulthood. When I started writing, I fell in love with teenagers, and their voice is just what came out of me the most naturally. And then I was also a chaplain at Lindsey Wilson. And so I just kind of put those, and a professor at Lindsey Wilson for 10 years or so, teaching youth ministry and stuff like that. So that's kind of like where I came from. And sometimes I will throw out all these years and people will be like, how old are you? And I'm like, 400. That's the way it works. So my life looks a little bit like this. Do you guys have these? I don't know if I can see you all. I don't know if y'all keep them in when you go to conferences, but they're like little badges of honor for me. They make me very excited. And even when people are like, oh, we keep your badge, like the little sleeve, I'm like, you're not keeping mine. Like, I don't steal very many things, you all, but library conference badges, I keep them all. And I hope that these are my trophies. And so many of them are librarian events and book festivals. And you guys are at the heart of these things. I mean, and so many of them are school visits. And I mean, you live in that environment, and I have I should have taken a picture of this too, but I also have all of my visitor stickers from going into you go into the front office and you have to get a sticker that has your name and ID on it or whatever. And I always throw it on the front of my pants. And then when I'm done with that visit, I put it on a cart. I have this little cart I drag around. And I mean, and those, you say like authors are our rock stars, and I'm like, you guys, I can't tell you, like, you guys are my rock stars. Teachers, librarians, the people that live on the front lines of loving on kids and helping them find their escapes and find their way to navigate the world through books. This whole presentation should be about you when it really comes down to it. And I'm sorry that you have to listen to me instead of hear about yourselves, because it would probably be more interesting. Let's see if I can get this to move on. It doesn't think I have another screen. I don't really know why. So I'm going to pull off of the, it's stopped for some reason. I don't know if you guys still have me? Okay, hang on just a second. While I'm looking for this, if I can make this move, I don't know what's going on. There it is. All right. So you guys know that in the last 2 years, can you guys see my screen now?
No, it quit sharing with us for some reason.
Oh man, okay. Golly, so crazy. I hate technology and I love it. It's always annoying. I'm so sorry. All right, let's try it again. All right.
We're back. There we go.
Okay. All right. You've got, try and go one more slide back here. All right. Okay. All right. Can y'all see that now? Okay.
Yeah, we're on your community outreach manager.
Yes. All right. I have the coolest job in the world. I get to do two things I really love. I get to write, and this is just like the craziest snapshots I could come up with from this year, over the past 2 years of what being a community outreach manager looks like. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I would be crazy not to tell you how amazing it is to not just be a person who writes books, but be a person who hands a book off. And not just be a person who hands a book off, but who lives in and among a community and just gets to love on them. I tell like all my summer outreach team, I'm like, listen, your job is to love people. Your job is to love people. That's what we do. We go out there every single day and we love on people. And we do that through books, but we also do it through, like, this is me in this Grinch costume. This is this picture up here in the top corner. This is a bus. It's called the LEAP bus. It came out of, it's born out of COVID. We started doing pop-up libraries, not just libraries, pop-up classrooms in all these different neighborhoods during COVID when the schools shut down. And what we found out is, like, we would go out, we would set up Wi-Fi, we'd throw the tents up, throw the tables up. Kids would bring their Chromebooks out to us, and we would try and help them do their homework every day. These are just some of those sweet babies from a place that we love. But every time that it would rain and every time we'd have weather, it would get shut down. So I went to the school system and I asked us if they would donate a bus to the library that we could retrofit into a mobile classroom. And that way, if it rained, we would still be able to have class. You're looking at that bus in that picture and that collaboration that now can do ESL on the road. It can do citizenship training. Like, we can take this bus anywhere and give every age group an opportunity to advance their education in something. And so it's just very exciting. This picture in the bottom right corner is from our dinosaur dig day. And I decided that they needed, to actually dig for dinosaurs. And so this is my trailer. I went and got a literal ton of sand that morning and buried all kinds of dinosaurs in it. And if you think, being an author is fun, there's hardly anything more fun than watching a ton of kids look for dinosaurs. And then this picture in the middle is also born out of you guys know what we've lived through with this tornado. People donated all kinds of things. And we got to kind of sit at the heart of that. And it was amazing. And so somebody had donated a bunch of bicycles, as you can see. And there's about 25 bicycles. I went to go pick them up at the school to move them to where they're going. And I only brought our community outreach van, and they were laughing at me. They're like, they're not going to fit in there. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm good at Tetris. You just give me a hot minute. I'm going to make this work. So this is how that looked like. I was like, this is kind of the snapshot of what my life looks like. And then of course, this is my little dog. He is in librarian training class right now. He's going to be a library dog. Kids are going to be able to read to him. He's going to be able to pick out books. He's going to be awesome. His name's Gilbert Gandalf Blythe. So if you need to know where my heart of hearts, is from being a child, Anne of Green Gables, and of course, Lord of the Rings. So. All right. So this is me. These are my primary titles right here. And like I said, today we're dealing with We Were Kings. And I'm like, I'm always like, what should you expect when you get into a novel that looks like this? First of all, I'm in love with the cover. I think they did an amazing job. We had another cover for it, and then Walmart asked us to change it. And when Walmart asks you to change something, you just change it. And so we put this this kind of package together. And what you're looking at here is a novel about. It starts with two best friends. And that's kind of what I want you to think about is who's your ride or die person? And what would happen to you if that ride or die person was accused of murdering your sibling? How do you know where your allegiances are? What do you do with that? And so that's the parental relationship, and that's the situation we walk into when we start this book. And it's a 20-year-old crime at this point, and she's ride or die. And so what she's done is she's stayed with her best friend, and now we're living in a slightly alternate universe where there is an accelerated death penalty. And what happens is the president at the time has decided that we're not going to let ungreat citizens live long. We're not going to pay for them to live any longer. So they get, of course, this is all speculative. They get one final appeal. And if the final appeal fails, then they have 30 days until they're executed. And this ride or die friendship, they start on page 1 losing the appeal. And so the story is the fallout of what happens to this woman's child as she encounters why her life has always been about this other woman. She's 18 years old, and her mom has always made it really clear that her best friend is the reason that they move around. It's the reason they don't have money. It's she's not giving her up, and now her world is devastated. And this kid is going to find out some really hard truths, but at the end of the day, she's going to go figure out whether or not Francis Quick is guilty or not. And she's got 30 days to do it. So that's kind of what you're looking at. It's not political. I know that's on the screen, but it's just the ticking clock. I'm in love with mysteries. I always have been. And it's kind of funny. I always thought I would write mysteries if I ever got a chance to write, and that's not what I sold first. So you kind of get locked into what it is you're you sell a contract, and that contract has multiple books on it, and they want it to build on itself. And so until I switched to a different imprint, I kind of couldn't pursue that. And so this is me learning all the time about how to write. Now, where did the idea come from? Well, one, I have a ride or die best friend. She's actually the person interviewing me tonight. If you didn't know, there's an event tonight. it's going to be in person at Bob Kirby Library. If you happen to be local at 6 o'clock, we would love, 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 love for you to come. If you are unable or live too far away, we're also going to live stream it on Facebook. So please feel free to join us, because an audience anywhere is amazing when you get to talk about books. And I will not say the same things, I promise. Because Carla is interviewing me, my best friend of 20 years, and she's going to ask me hard questions, I'm sure, because that's what she's been doing our entire life together. So like, lots of times people ask me this question, where did the idea come from? And I thought you might enjoy kind of seeing how I arrived at this particular plot. So on like the side that has Kentucky and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this is standard for me. This is part of my operating procedure for writing novels. I love to write about small towns, especially about rural Kentucky. So if you open this book, you're going to find rural Kentucky. And then I also realized several years ago that because I have a background in psychology, I have a master's in counseling, that, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a great way to plot a novel. So if I look at this triangle, if the further down the triangle that I move, the higher the thrill. The further up the triangle that I move, the more I move toward adult novel. So every book I'd written for my first 4 books, they all lived in this space of belonging and love. Like that was the goal of the main character. Like how can I love myself? How can I move through the world? How can I heal? Big questions. It's questions that teenagers lots of times are asking. But they don't lend themselves necessarily toward entertainment. Have you guys seen this with like books that are out there right now, with YA books in particular? They're leaning less toward entertainment and more toward, what do I believe? How should I believe? Who is it okay to love? Is it okay to love myself? There's just a lot of that out there in the contemporary realistic and diversity world. And there's nothing wrong with that. It needs to be there. I'm so grateful it's there. But I also think there's room for us to have fun. And I think kids they don't always want to pick up a book and cry. They want to pick up a book and escape. And so I've been trying to write more toward escapism in the last couple books. And so what that means is I will actively ask myself, like, how can I put my main character in dangerous physiological situations? And then if I can move it to multiple characters in the book, I know the intensity will go up. And so I don't know if that's interesting to you all, but part of my process is to kind of lay into both of those things. And then you've got like, what makes it this particular book? Well, these are some of my influences. Knives Out. I loved Knives Out. I don't know if you all saw that. I'm a little worried that the world has stopped watching movies in lieu of television. And I love television. I love movies so much, and I've spent a lot of time studying them. This is the last movie that I really found like so charming and fantastic. And I was like, if I could pull off something that's a little bit cheeky, a big kind of family drama, I would love to do that. And then the movie, The Life of David Gale, you've probably never seen it, but I love it. And it's been out for you. You can tell from the stars in it, Kate Winslet is like 10 or something. It's like right after Titanic, probably. But it is a movie about the death penalty. And here's the thing. I am not political. I'm barely political at all. And so I struggle. People ask me, like, as I wrote this book, what are your thoughts on the death penalty? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, they change all the time. Like, I don't know. But I know when I watched this movie that I had to interact with it in a way that I'd never interacted with it before. I loved the passion of this reporter trying to figure out the truth of why this man was on death row. And it's never left me. And I find myself rewatching that movie, I don't know, once or twice a year. And I have since it came out. And then the last thing is cereal. And I feel like there was a time period in this country, I feel like you could say the word cereal and like literally everyone was listening to the same thing. And I don't know if you were all on that track or not, but I certainly was. And I remember like when the last episode of Serial dropped, some of my friends were in New York and they said that the entire subway car was quiet and that everyone was listening to Serial. And I'm like, wow. But I mean, I just kind of became obsessed with Adnan and Sarah Koenig. And I was like, I wonder what it would be like to be Sarah Koenig. And then because I write for teens, you know, moving that down the line and like letting it come from a teenage main character sounded super fun. And so you're going to see hints of Serial in my main character, the Sarah Koenig of this, trying to wrestle with like what she believes and how it's affected her life and what she's going to do with the content of whether Francis Quick is guilty or not guilty. I'm going to tell you one last thing about writing, because I think sometimes people love to hear this kind of stuff. When I made the move to write thrillers, I started studying satisfaction and endings. And I actually think, I mean, if I spent a little bit more time with this and this was a different audience, I would be like, I bet I could figure out how to make this preach. I don't know. But I started asking myself, like, why are there movies or why are there stories that the ending is sad and we still love it? And then I started asking myself, like, why are there movies that are sad and stories that are sad and I never want to encounter them again? Like, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I was a part of someone's life, but I really don't need to revisit that. Like, what is the entertainment value? And so I started studying it in movies. And like, I picked Titanic because like people love Titanic. And like, it's awful, you know, like, I mean, there's all these memes and jokes and you're like, you know, I'm never going to let go except right now, you know, and then they just drift away. I mean, spoiler alert, you've had time on this one, but you know, the boat still sinks. Nothing good happens in this story. I mean, for the most part, except we're just like captivated by it and we will rewatch it. It is still, for some reason, entertainment. Now, I watched The Boy in the Striped Pajamas and it's powerful. You know, and there's some other movies I would put in other stories I would put in line with this, like War Horse, $1 Million Baby. I don't know if y'all seen those. I know I'm aging myself here, but like, I don't ever want to watch them again. They were not entertainment at all for me. Powerful. I loved them. The artistry is fabulous. But I don't need to live in that world any longer than I already spent in it. And so in this study, I kind of isolated some things that I tried to take into my writing and ask myself, like, what makes a good ending? And you guys might not agree with this or not, but I think endings really do matter. And you know, that all, take it out of movies, take it out of writing, because I'm going to end in just a second with something I wrote last night. And I want to move away from whether you like my writing or not, whether you like sitting here or not. And I want to talk about your ending and your life. And I mean, when I say ending, I don't mean death, just for a second here. It could be in a season of what it is you're doing right now. It could be, you know, we've all, dear God, I hope we're at the end of this pandemic, you know, like, and what does an end of a season anywhere look like? Because we're often tying off these seasons and starting new ones. And for me, I'm like, maybe you're starting with me as an author today. But for me, like the day the book comes out is the day it stops belonging to me. It's the end of the season of the book rather than the beginning of the season of the book. And so to kind of like come to understand what I believe and where I am in this process, I'm going to share one last story and then something I wrote for you guys from last night. And then you guys are welcome to ask questions if you have them, or I'll get you out of here and give you back to your day. I don't know if you're familiar with this TED Talk called Start With Why. It's by Simon Sinek. It is, if you do anything else with the rest of your day, go watch it. I don't know that it'll strike you the way that it struck me, but I watched it essentially when it came out, and I've been living in such a way since then that that information has been valuable. And one of the things that he says is that what you're seeing on your screen, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. You know, and I don't care whether you buy my book. I mean, I'd love for you to, because that's cool. But like, I'd much rather you have this experience today and buy why I do what I do rather than what I've done. It's far more powerful. It matters to me a lot more. You could strip every book I've ever written away. And you would still be standing here with me. What you do, who you are. I think it's more important. And especially, you know, when kids look in your eyes, you know, kids come to you and they're desperate, you know, like I have, it's one of the things that's changed the most in my life. You know, I have a housemate and she has 2 kids. And so for the very first time in my life, I'm a parent. They came to live with me during COVID. They left a bad situation and have been living with me, and I've kind of been a guardian ever since. And, you know, I stepped into my teenager's room this morning before I left. One, just so you know, I did the moment we all got up, because they've all been excited about today, which is super cool. I was like, we're gonna have a dance party. And so we got the dogs in the living room. We turned out all the lights. We turned on the flashlights on our phones, and we just danced for like 2.5 minutes this morning. But, you know, they all left, and I went into her room, and she's an artist. And I went in there to use her mirror to see if I'm too old to wear leather pants. Probably so, but I have them on. And she has this art all over the wall. And one of the pieces of art is like a profile of her face. And it just has the words, help me, 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 help me. And I remember feeling like that. I don't know if you guys remember what it was like to be a teenager or an elementary kid or wherever it is, but I remember for some reason, life, I could feel life, and I knew it was going to be hard. And so when I encountered this like Simon Sinek quote and this talk, this piece of information, I started asking myself, like, why do I write? Like, because if you're not buying the what, I'm going to come back to just me. I'm going to try to, at least. What is your why? I had to know what my why looked like. And I sat down last night. It was the last piece of getting ready for today. And I can't believe I've never done it before, to be truthful. And I was like, what? Why is it? And I thought I was just going to write a paragraph about why I write. And I'm just going to stop right now, and I'm going to read you what I wrote. And you just need to know that it is rough. This is a draft. I didn't intend for it to have any poetic. I was trying to tell the truth to myself. And so if it's not great, forgive me, but I hope there's something in here that you need to hear today. So this is why I write. I don't write to be famous. I'd rather not be canceled or judged. I don't write to be heard. I'm not sure that your story even needs to hear my story. I don't write to be quoted. I don't care if I'm ever a meme. I don't write to make money. I'll do it all for free. I don't write to master language. I'm actually kind of a novice of words when it really comes down to it. I don't write to be envied. I am terrified of becoming an arrogant asshole. I don't write to be remembered. I know people, including me, will always forget. I don't write because I've always wanted to be a writer. Actually, I always wanted to be in a think tank or in the FBI. I don't write to please my parents or friends. They'll love my books regardless of the quality, unfortunately. I don't even write because I have to write. I write for a chance to understand heroes and villains and to understand where courage comes from. I write toward entertainment and satisfaction, to make something surprising and delightful. I write because people wrote, and I benefited from the ability to escape into a book. I write because creating something hopeful feels like it balances out the destruction in the world. I write to wrestle with my own happy and painful memories. I write because I know it's harder to be lonely next to someone that you're supposed to love than it is to be alone. I write because the mirror of words helps me be able to see past me and present me and future me more accurately. I write because I've lived through things that made me want to die, and I've died through things that made me long to live. I write because I understand why bad things happen to good people, but not why good things happen to bad people. I write for the challenge of making something exceptional with my one heart and two hands. I write to be a better human. I write to be closer to God. I write because I want to matter. I've always wanted to matter. And there are a million ways to matter, and you don't have to write to do that. So I use my words to meet you. I use words not to tell my story, but for the honor of listening to your story someday. I use words so that I can get eyeball to eyeball with you and speak the truth, that you matter and you're loved, that you matter and you're loved, that you matter and that you're loved. I use words to speak that infinite truth because I'm worried that no one's told you lately. Or maybe no one ever told you. Or maybe somebody told you the opposite and they lied to you. And it will take hearing me say, you matter, you are loved, you matter, you are loved, over and over and over again, to be able to believe a new version of your story. You are loved and you matter. I use words because that's my calling. So I've got 2 questions to end on. What's yours? And how can I help? I don't even know what time it is. And so I'm sorry I went over. I'm sure I did. But I'm around, and the last thing I'll offer is, because I'm a public librarian, my amazing boss, Lisa Rice, has offered to let me do some regional school outreach. I'd already reached out to all the local schools, middle and high schools here in Bowling Green and Warren County, and offered to come for a set of stuff for free. The library is sending me as a gift. And I promise you, what I just read to you, I'm going to tell them. I'm going to tell them that. And I think it's probably way more important than whether they buy my book or know authors are real people. And so if you want to reach out to me, you can do that through my Warren County Public Library address. It's Courtney S@warrenpl.org. I'm here, and if I can be a resource to you, I'd love to be. Okay, I'll give it back to you. I'm sorry.
If we were in person, I'd most definitely be leading a standing ovation right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, I think we all know that the times are tough on our students, on our teachers, on our administrators, on our communities right now. And so thank you for that uplifting message to all of us. Thank you for what you do, providing us entertainment for reading, but also an outlet, and for what you speak and you do to also our students who will read your books. And again, guys, I will add her email to our agenda. And thank you for joining us. If you can join the book launch in Bowling Green tonight at the Bob Kirby branch of the Warren County Public Library, please join in, or, you said it's going to be on Facebook Live, join in that way. Reach out to Court if she can come to speak to your teachers, to your students. I know she does writing workshops. She does author talks, and she has that time available. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of our closing out our wonderful session of speakers today. Just a couple of other things as we are winding down with today. On the bottom of your agenda, we've got a few additional announcements. If you will just kind of take a look at those. Our friends at Kentucky Department of Library and Archives have youth resources available. Reach out to Amy Olson if you want to borrow any of their book discussion kits or KBA kits, or even their STEM programming that's available now. James mentioned the KYL chat that's every other Tuesday. Deidre mentioned KASL's summer refresher, and also thanks to our friends at KET for providing us school library connection for this year. The two announcements that I mentioned earlier, and don't forget again to sign in so you get your certificate of attendance. Check back to this agenda in about 10 days to 2 weeks for a recording for anything, and then also save the date for April 21st, which will be our last GREC LMS Network of this school year. So again, thank you all for taking the time and joining us for today. Thank you to all of our presenters who shared and made our agenda what it was today. So thank you all. And if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to Sam or myself. And thank you again, Dr. Costello and Amanda, for today's opportunity for our librarians. Y'all have a great rest of the week, and happy February.
Tara, thank you. Great network as ever. Sam, thank you both. Appreciate all you do. Thanks everybody for joining us.